Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome back to Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. This is episode 160. I'm joined by everyone's favorite pal, Lord Cognito. I thought of that one in the shower today. I was pretty happy with it. Yeah, that one I was pretty happy with. I was like, you know what? That was a good one. I got to rock with it. How are you, sir?
Oh, man, what a week. What a week. Just full of emotional highs and lows. You know how you have one of those weeks where you're like, okay, I just got to get through. Yep. I just gotta each day.
That's every week.
you know the vibes, right? But this week in particular, not that I was dreading it, but it was obviously at the New York Game Awards and the Lords presenting. You know, me opening up the show.
Okay.
Oh, it was absolutely.
Wow.
So, you know, you got the nervous energy of doing something big on the big stage. And then obviously you're in front of developer community, in front of Neil Druckmann, and here's Reggie. I'm introducing Reggie Fils-Aimé and all this other stuff. Oh, you didn't even know what was going on. Oh,
dude,
you would have really.
Like, you're definitely the type of dude who tells me way after the fact. And it's like, hey, this crazy fucking thing happened, man. I'm just like, oh, you just, Reggie and Neil, you just. Good for you, man. Like, well, I don't know how to react at this point. Okay, fill me in.
Bro, it was insane.
I knew you were going. I didn't know this was such a high level, though.
Son was in the building. Gene Park was in the building. You've been off Twitter, too. You've really been low on social media.
Wow, I've been off the grid. Holy smokes.
Yeah, check my timeline. Check ILO podcast
I'm gonna do that right now.
Brother, like, I mean, we're living a fever dream. And I'm blessed as much as I'm a LSM fan, I'm a little off, little B game today, so excuse me.
You got the Kazuma Kiryu dress shirt.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, look at that.
You ain't got no problem. I was coming with that vibe. I was trying to erase my name. But shout out, I got Addict, and then I got Addict in town, you know, so I'm showing him some New York stuff, and I'm probably take him out and meet up with King, do some ramen. So it's just been an eventful week, a positive week, but ultimately, shout out to the New York Game Awards. I'm obviously part of the New York Video Games Critics Circle, where we kind of give back to students and kids in underserved communities. The mayor's office was there. They gave out some scholarships and stuff like that. So it was just a dope event, you know, for the town, you know what I'm saying, New York City. Oh, get this. The developers get the chance to talk and get their awards.
Okay.
And, you know what I'm saying? You get to see who won Game of the Year and all that good stuff.
Dude, look at you. This is nuts.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Iron Lords.
Brother, yeah, this is a full day yesterday.
Congrats to you guys. This is amazing.
Bro, so proud of my brother, Sav, Addict King. We was able to present the AR VR award when that. So I opened up the show to introduce Reggie, and then we came back up on stage to present an award for the best VR AR game, and then I came back up to close the show. And anybody who came up to me, like, there was some LSM fam in the building.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
LSM fam was in the building, you know what I'm saying? And they showed tremendous love, and a couple of, you know, developers in the studio. And Neil Druckmann was awesome. He won the Legend of the Year. Now I know why they picked you. That's such a cog ass award to just have in your show. Legend of the Year. Legend of the Year. And he came through, and oh man, he's the real deal, bro. I got so much respect for him. He is the real deal. Like, I know when guys play that Hollywood game, and respectfully, these guys are like luminaries. Everybody comes and bothers them. And, you know, sometimes they just want to get away. A lot of people are introverts. They don't want to be around. I totally get that, right? This guy, like, is so down to earth and just talk to my job, me and King's job was to usher him and to usher Reggie out, so that they put us on Lord Bodyguard, dude. It was awesome.
What they say? Holy crap, you guys
got
the
VIP
whole 9 yards.
Check, we got the target. We got the Reginator. It was, bro, me and King look at each other like, can you believe we grew up in the South Bronx and one day we would say that we would be in a room protecting Reggie Fils-Aimé with all our heroes in gaming? Bro, I'm blessed. I'm I'm very fortunate, and it was a night, man. So I'm just trying to get through. It's a crazy week, more stuff going on, but trying to get through. But yeah, how's your day? That was just about just chilling with Reggie and everything.
Yeah, just a nice day. I was thinking my random story to open the show was I was going to talk about new hair products I'm using. What the fuck am I doing though, man? Look at
Not a hair kind of fly though. You got to get your Peter Parker on. What we doing? What we doing?
Oh wow, I appreciate you gassing me up. I was just like, how does that? How do I follow such a thing? No, so I've been trying to learn more about hair care just because I'm getting close to 30, and I just, my biggest fear, I've told everyone, I was like, I will get hair transplant after hair transplant if I ever get close to getting bald or like
holding on. Is that like hereditary situation?
No, nothing.
Okay.
No, my dad's got full head of hair. He's in his 60s.
So
like we're good.
About? The head and the bounce.
I'm just trying to look. That's it. I don't want to take a great thing for granted. I love my hair. I've been obsessed with my hair. Not like, oh, I love it so much. I've been obsessed with like taking care of my hair since 6th grade, probably like since I was 12 years old. And it has been a long road of figuring all that out. But I've recently added rosemary oil to
right. I see the extra texture, extra bounce.
Yeah, I just started, so I don't know if it's going to provide immediate results, but I've been trying that out. I've been trying out a new shampoo type. It's called like raw sugar. Really good smelling. Like it's a white tea kind of scent. It's really good. Right. And what I've learned is like you got to lather it in your hands. I might be way behind on the times. I was slapping that shit in my hair beforehand. Because I was saying that lately, I was like, I love voluminous hair.
Yes.
I like my hair to have body to it. Mm-hmm. I like a little poof to it. I like it. Just I feel fucking fly, man, when that shit's going. But and like there was a time like I right now I'm rocking I call it the 2021 Duke cut. When we did our first LSM show, like I kind of got a little bit of the mullet.
Oh yeah,
if you will.
Back. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of the Casey Hudson here.
Okay.
And Lady's like, go back to that cut. And so that's what I did. So it was a slight change, but she was telling me, she's like, yeah, lather the shampoo in your hands, lather the conditioner in your hands. Dude, I was like pasting it to my head and like rubbing it around. And I was like, why is my hair so flat? And since I've stopped doing that, oh man, it feels different. I'm sure no one notices. Like most of our audience are dudes. So like no one gives a fuck. But for me, like, I'm just like, I feel pretty good. I'm like, okay, I like this. So yeah, while you were presenting and shaking hands with Neil Druckmann, I was putting rosemary oil in my fucking hair.
This is hilarious. This is a segment already. Man, cue it up, baby. But this is fire. This is fire. And as long as the Mrs. Maddie plays.
I did an ultimate trust fall. Okay, so as I said, I've been very protective of my hair since I was 12, right? So only specific people can cut my hair. Like if I get a mildly bad, you're done. Like I will slander your name until I am dead. I am so protective of that. I don't know who wouldn't be, right? Because I'm like, for me, I don't look good with really short hair. So if like you fuck up my cut and I gotta go bald, like that's it, dude. Like you have ruined my life for months, arguably years, man. I can't go that route, right? So it's like I'm very protective. Once I find a style I don't like to deviate, right? Because I get nervous that when I switch my hair to more of that middle part, kind of I call it the Levi Ackerman cut. When I shifted to that, at first there was a little audience blowback, like, yo, bro, it's not been the 90s for a while. I was like, all right, watch me cook though. And I feel like I found my way. I started off looking like Karen and I found my way. It was a growing process. So I've grown some hair confidence. And then the next step was literally this. All right. Before we really had any discussions, like her mom cuts hair. She's really good at it. She's like, just let my mom cut your hair and do what she wants with it. I was like, are you fucking are you high?
Yeah,
I was like, are you?
That's a level of trust that. Woo!
I went for it.
Wow.
These are the results. I was like,
okay. So you lucked out. You got.
Like normally I show a picture. I'm like this. Nothing else but like this.
Oh, you that dude in the barbershop.
I'll pull out a whole selfie of myself. Like I'll be like, I love this hair right here. Bring me back to that, and that'll be it. And most times it's always worked out. So yeah, I've done the ultimate trust fall. Laylee's mom cut my hair. I think it came out well. But yeah, that's been my week, man. That's just a lot of hair care, a lot of hair focus.
A lot of hair care.
So health is wealth, right?
Health is wealth, brother. You gotta get that right, get that volume, get that proper nutrition to the hair too.
Yeah. Yeah, it needs its love. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Each and every week we sit down and talk about everything happening in gaming. If you enjoy that or the conversations about hair and presenting games at the New York Game Awards, you can support us over at patreon.com/laststandmedia. Early access to the show goes live on Thursdays. Pardon my burps. I just had a huge turkey sandwich before this. Yeah, turkey, cheddar cheese, mayo, homemade mayo, and a little Dijon mustard.
Little Dijon? Oh, fine.
Toasted. Homemade sourdough bread. Toasted it in the air fryer.
Bro.
It hit.
That sounded like it was hitting.
Oh, yeah.
That's a cog sandwich. I would rock with
everything. Podcast, for anyone who's ever interested in podcasting, it's all about what you do before the show that determines everything. So that's why, like, I really have just started making Wednesdays like my kind of fuck it day until we sit down for the show. I'm like loosey goose. It's like game day, right? Right. I have the game day vibes. I'm like, okay, I got to be on. Like, it's 3-4 hours. We're just on camera talking. So it's like I got to eat good. I got to exercise. I got to plan my day out. Really feel good. Of course. Yeah, man. Anyway, early access Thursdays, Last Stand Media. You also get early access to a plethora of shows there. Sacred Symbols, Summon Sign, which I think you're going to be on next, Cog. So episode 5, look out for my man there.
Yeah.
And then, we got everything else going on there over there. Sacred Symbols Plus. We just did a crossover for that, Defining Duke cross Sacred Symbol. And it was a really good chat. It was about 2.5 hours long. It was myself, Cog, Dustin, and Colin. And we talked about everything from Palworld's initial success all the way to Xbox going digital. It was a lot of Xbox-centric stuff. Xbox Game Pass, of course, we got into that.
We got into that.
And then we wrapped things up with where we feel PlayStation is at. Is right now, at least as we record this, things are pretty quiet for them. Beyond, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, for example. So we talked about all of that extensively. That's over on Patreon. I don't know if that's going out for free feeds, but like most crossovers, I imagine it eventually will.
Yeah, I love that episode.
Keep an eye out. Yeah, really good episode, really good conversation. Yeah. And that's about all of our cleaning up. Let's get into a few write-ins here, setting the good vibes. We got Cammie Black writing in. Hello, Dukes. Just a quick one to say, I signed up for Sacred Symbols years ago, but found myself listening to the Dukes more and more to the point I actually went and bought an Xbox with Game Pass. Don't tell Colin. Props to the both of you for having a podcast so good. People are willing to buy Xboxes just to be part of your conversation. Loving Halo Infinite and getting back into Mass Effect. Have yourself a Commander Shepard punching a news reporter in the face kind of day. I watched those clips recently. I happened upon them on YouTube and I watched them. I was like, I was cracking up, like, just because it happens all the games, all 3 games. And there's like even permutations to the conversations. Like in the third game, if you throw a punch and you've carried over your save twice, she dodges it and she squares up. I'm like, that was one of the best moments in the series. I kid you not.
Bro, the attention to detail is insane with Mass Effect. Again, still, no game has ever done that transitioning choices and save data. Bro, it's insane. Shout out to Cammie Black. Again, love to hear it. Love the fact that you're rocking with the Dukes, in the realm of the Dukes, and it made you inspired you to even want to get into the ecosystem of the console. Yeah. Super inspiring. Thank you for that. That's dope.
Because we sit here to talk news, but I don't think we ever. Like, we talk the value of Game Pass for sure, but I don't think we like sit here and advocate like, here's why you got to buy. So like when people say that, I'm like, that's why I highlight it. I was like, that's a pretty big compliment because we're not sitting here like, here's why you need an Xbox Series X in 2024. It's like, no, let the fuckers over at Xbox figure that out for us.
That's Xbox job. Like, that's why I love it, because it's not like, yo, you got 30 days to get on this Xbox at $250, bro.
We're not highlighting deals. We did when the show first started. We did have a PC deal of the week or something like that because we tried to support PC gamers, but they just wasn't really working. It didn't feel right, but okay. I
didn't know this. It's doing
character. That was a little DD lore. It was like the opening segments before we, molded the show more to the audience feedback.
No doubt.
So Frito Bandito actually shared this sentiment with Cammie Black, saying, "Hey, Cog and Maddie, just wanted to glaze y'all a bit and tell you how much I love the level of conversation coming from this podcast. I'm primarily a PC gamer, but the Xbox conversations really keep me engaged. Keep it up, as I know y'all will." Love a good glaze, right?
We pause worthy in the realm of the pause cast already. Okay, I see what we doing. Shout out to Frito Bandito, though. Now, that's what's up, man. Love the PC community as well. We family. Let's be real. Xbox community, PC, we family now. So it is what it is. But that's love.
Yeah, we step family, right?
Exactly. Step brothers and sisters.
And then, of course, we like to help our audience whenever we can. Tony Rivera has a bit of a financial conundrum here. Happy New Year, you filthy animals. Quick but serious question for you. If you had a choice of a $200 Amazon gift card or an Xbox Series X, which would you choose? I realize now as I'm reading this right, and we're about to go back on our word and potentially sell a Series X to someone. I recently switched.
Fact, we about to break.
I just realized that, like, wow, I didn't think of that when I put the show together. I recently switched to Verizon Home Internet, and before the holidays, the choice was between Xbox Series S or $200. But after the holidays, it's now showing as an Xbox Series X. I have until February 12th to make the decision. Personally, I have a PS5 and can't decide if I want the money or the X. Should Microsoft be concerned that discerning gamers like myself are deep in the PlayStation ecosystem, are having trouble justifying a free Xbox Series X over a $200 Amazon gift card? Keep up the good work, and thanks for the assist. So yeah, this is an interesting conundrum here, right? Like, he could get a handful of games here with this $200 gift card in the platform he already owns, or he gets a whole-on free console. So, Cog, if you're Tony Rivera, what are you doing? Taking the cash and running, or are you taking this free Series X?
Before I answer this, it's funny because we did the crossover, and one of my points, if you remember, I was saying in reference to, potential third-party stuff, is that when people are ingrained in an ecosystem, right, it's hard to move them out. It's hard because this is where they ultimately want to stay. And I use an example of Kyle, like, what we got to do to get him out, right, kind of thing. So to Tony's question, look, as much as I just say, we've never sold no one an Xbox Series X, bruh, like, unless, to me, it shows you have interest in the ecosystem and that you're even thinking about it. So there's clearly something that you've had on your mind. So my thing is, get the X and get your Game Pass or whatever you got to do. Unless you're telling me like there's some amazing thing that's non-gaming related or gaming related exclusive to PlayStation that you just gotta have and you can't miss, then that's different. But I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, especially if it's an ecosystem that you've been interested in and you're clearly listening to the Duke. So something's intriguing you. Something is clearly intriguing. But part of me, it feels like the question's incomplete because I feel like he needs to say, what is he going to do with the 200?
Yeah,
then I can say, okay, all right, fam, you're gonna get medicine. You're gonna get, hey, fam, you're gonna do something.
You're gonna feed your family with that. You might want to take $200.
Yeah, because you try to eat this week or whatever, like that kind of thing. Nah, but all jokes aside, seriously, I would say Series X if it's nothing, dire, of course.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's a couple of ways you could also go about it, Tony. Right? Because, like, let's say you said PS5. I'm just going to throw this out here on the chance you have a PC that plays games, is that you could take the $200 Amazon gift card, buy a year's worth of Game Pass if that really is something that's interesting you, or a couple months of Game Pass, and then spend the rest on games to own on PS5. I will say a free Series X, it's always going to result in Game Pass to you, right? So they're going to give you the console, but if you get Game Pass and there's like a lot of games there in that library, I think that kind of pays for itself at that point.
Absolutely.
So I would say that. And I'll game it a little bit further here for you, Tony. Let's say you get your Series X, you're like, this console's absolutely distasteful. I hate this stupid brick. I want to get rid of it. You could sell it probably and maybe make close to the $200 Amazon gift card back. I don't know what they go for on eBay. But you could probably get rid of it for a penny if you really don't like it. But if you're deeply ingrained in the PlayStation ecosystem, it sounds like to me, based on what you wrote in here, sounds like to me, maybe you haven't tried what's on the other side of the fence much. And if so, this is the freest opportunity you can really get to experience that and see what it's like. And then just know for sure, if at worst you're like, you know what, PlayStation's doing it right, I don't want to hang out here. Or I hate to use their slogan. You might discover your next favorite game.
We's a marketing.
Yeah, we really sell it now.
From the last topic to this topic.
Yeah.
Always going
down right now.
We frauded down. Now they can be like, you see,
damn. We shit on Xbox's marketing, but they do take slogans and terms that like we have used and turn them into marketing stuff. And it's like,
get a bag.
Yeah, so it's like, how many other ways can I say like, oh, it kind of pays for itself, and you might find something you might find something you really like. So go ahead and give it a look, Tony. But that would be our suggestion. Please follow up. Let us know what you decide, and then follow up again. And if you do get like that Series X, let us know what games you end up playing. Of course, we have if you're new around here, we have the Game Pass pick of the week. So we have recommendations coming in and out every single week for new and old Xbox fans, and we're always talking about what we're playing here. So you can typically find something to get you started. But thank you for writing in, Tony.
Yeah, don't question. I like it.
All right, Cog. Let's move on into the news. So, Avowed. We had that as the first game that showed up during the Developer Direct. And we talked pretty extensively about how we felt, it was not bad looking, especially for what we now know is alpha gameplay, but it felt lacking comparatively speaking to the other games at the showcase. Like there was something kind of being hidden. Something felt a little off to us, even if we know it's the Black Rock and they're making an RPG and it's Pillars of Eternity, the Outer Worlds. Something feels off. So on the Xbox podcast, they posted a 25-minute preview, if you will, of Avowed, showing extended gameplay, talking a bit more details. And we had a staggering amount of write-ins about this one. And I wanted to use as many as possible, Cog, simply because I know how sometimes our show can be interpreted as like you see Xbox podcast, and a lot of people think that means that like we have to be sitting here rotting and dying for everything. And I think the biggest benefit of the audience write-ins beyond like topic jump off points and different perspectives is to have a pretty healthy representation of what the streets are saying, not just us sitting here going, I saw online this. You can see anything online, but like we have people deeply entrenched in these ecosystems. And right now it seems like a general consensus that Avowed is like, hey, I want to be excited, but something seems a touch off here. And the extended showing was definitely an improvement. Felt like we got a clearer idea. But let's go ahead and read a few of these write-ins here. Vault Hunter Gaming said, hey, Kings of Dukeland. You both last week did a recap of the Direct. Avowed didn't really show that well. Cog made me chuckle at work saying Xbox knew in order to put the games in and finished with Indie. However, they just released a proper deep dive into Avowed. Some details mentioned companions, hub world, spell traversals, for example, freeze a lake to cross it. Is this what you have hoped for? And is it messy Xbox didn't have these details front and center stage at the Direct? Have a sigh of relief. It's almost the weekend kind of day. Again, I want to run through all these write-ins just so people can get a true feeling of it all. So it's 3 more write-ins.
No doubt.
Zeke the Plumber writes, hey, Dookie boys, I got to be honest, the developer direct was great. I think 4 of the games shown look super dope. That being said, I'm really underwhelmed by Avowed. To me, it looks like it has last-gen visuals and gameplay akin to modded Skyrim. The combat was very, static. It just seems dated. I love Obsidian and I'll still be diving in day one, but maybe I had unrealistic expectations on this one. Thanks, stay bussin'. Meatball writes in, greetings esteemed Dukes. Prior to the Dev Direct last week, Avowed was my most anticipated game for Xbox this year. As much as I wanted to love it, I couldn't help but feel a bit underwhelmed by what they had showed. The combat and lip sync in particular looked quite dated, and the lack of music was noticeable too. From what I see online, it doesn't appear I'm alone with this lukewarm reaction. I know you're both Black Rock, ride or dies, but are you at all worried about some of the core features of Avowed after Obsidian gives a peek behind the curtain, especially this close to launch? Cheers from AZ. And then Vonaran. Hey Dukes, reception for Avowed from after the Direct has been a little divisive. Notably, Paul Tassi of Forbes wrote a rather critical article titled, Something Seems Very Off About Xbox's Avowed. The wary take shined a light on the stiff demonstration of Obsidian's RPG storytelling, specifically correlating to the footage of a dated VR game. YouTubers have also drawn ire with the awkward animations and dialogue delivery not matching the character on screen. We all know the Dukes are anticipating greatness with Avowed, but now that the dust has settled, do any of these critiques warrant the apprehension some are expressing toward the Black Rocks? I like how that's a thing, by the way. Everyone's calling it the Black Rock. I love it. First AAA endeavor under the Xbox banner. All right, so I want to kick it to you first, Cog. Have you had a chance to dive into this extended showing? Cool. Yes. So what did you think of it? And are you feeling the same trepidation that some of the audience is feeling as the dust is settling? We're out of the thick of the Direct. Where keep in mind, it's not an excuse when I say this, just so people understand the time period and stuff. We literally saw the developer Direct, and then like 40 minutes tops later, like we just got together and recorded. So not much is processed, not much information is circulated. We didn't have this in context. So now that the dust is settled, you get time to think on it, see this extended look again, which did re-show a lot of the same gameplay. Are you with the audience? Is there a little bit of concern? How are you feeling?
I think it's like kind of what I said. I'm going to stand probably on what I said the first time, which is I don't think they moved anyone who was on the fence or apprehensive. I just got to be honest. I don't think they changed that person. Now, when I saw it the second time, and they had a little bit more details, and I believe there was a part where they were going from an elevated perspective and trying to use stealth, crossing a bridge, all this kind of stuff. And, I did see more to combat. And my issue still is the reactions in the combat, the fluidity in the combat. I still don't think it's the game's strongest point. And here's the problem they're going to face is that we come from an era where these RPGs with these deep skill systems, these amazing conversation trees, and all these things you can do in the game, we kind of, let's be honest, as Western RPG guys, we kind of accept that combat is supposed to be, not that we should, but we kind of accept that combat is probably not going to be the strongest part of the game, right? Yeah. And then when you look at like modern efforts that are not Western RPGs, when it's really visceral and it's really, really brutal, it's only naturally going to be compared to that. And I think that there's fairness there. I don't think there's anything the Rum and the Dukes is saying right now. I can't really go at y'all and be like, nah, y'all bugging. The Black Rock is undefeated and y'all never. No, I totally get it. And I do see what people are talking about, where there is concern there. Now, as far as like to the first question, as far as like, the extended, why they didn't do that, I think maybe because of time constraints and stuff like that, because there is a lot to the game that we still don't know. To your point, Maddie, last Defining Duke, you kind of wanted to see a little bit more as from what we know them to do well, which is like whether it be the skill tree system or what type of spells you could use besides just the ones that they kind of show. But, just the deviation, I'm still to the point where I want to know, is the hand magic without a wand still a thing that we saw from the original? Like, is there variants to that? Because remember, we saw in the developer direct, the Xbox showcase last year, the part that got me hype was him kind of like in a temple with like 8 enemies, and he kind of had them up in the air. Your character had them up in the air with like their hand in a spell like thing, and that blew me away. So there's moments where the game I'm like, I see the potential in the combat and the things you could do with spell crafting. But I have to admit with the Realm of the Dukes, I don't think they had this. It's like they really wanted to show combat. They really wanted to let us know, yo, combat, y'all. And to your point, like you said last Duke, very eloquently, which was like, you didn't show what you guys really do in conjunction with that. And I don't think I got to be honest, Black. And I love the Black Rock. And I'm still, what's funny when I say all this, and I'm not worried. I am not worried about this game. Okay. But I don't think they did themselves any favors to anyone who is concerned on the fence and say, nah, that combat ain't it, or maybe that AI is a little stiff and off. And I will say this, the part that I do resonate the most is I'm a very parry guy, or like when you do sword and board, and you put the thing, like, I like the impact of the hit. And I think they were trying to showcase a parry. It just didn't, I don't know. It just wasn't, it was just, it's like maybe a frame or two difference that I just didn't get that impact that I needed, that visceral, that oomph. And I think that's what people are talking about. And until they see that, they're going to have those questions come up. But that's where I'm at.
I'm going to call my shot now.
Let's go.
I definitely, seeing the game, if you look at it, okay, so there's 2 lenses you look through. Like, there's what we saw, we now know, thanks to this extended look, is alpha gameplay. It was pre-alpha last June. And I think for pre-alpha and I think for alpha, the game looks pretty damn good. I think a lot of the concerns people have with the minimal things like the impact, the lip syncing, the visual fidelity, that stuff doesn't mean it will. That stuff should get better. If it's alpha, they still have beta and then the final release. So they have a ways to go. With that said, when you're a consumer trying to buy something, you got to put your best foot forward. You can't be showing pre-alpha and then alpha, and you seem to be moving along quickly. They mentioned in this extended showing that this is more of a AA style game. And so I would set your expectations accordingly, which is this is going to probably feel more like the Outer Worlds, which is, I think, a great thing. But a lot of people, and again, we're going to talk about this more extensively with Hellblade. A lot of people thought when Xbox bought these teams, like this was going to be, they're going to dump the whole piggy bank on whatever they're working on next. And it seems like we were wrong on that. All of us. I think we all are seeing Xbox is playing a much more conservative, like, but not even conservative, like these studios are maintaining their culture or what they want to be. Like Obsidian wants to stay more AA.
This is their choice.
Hellblade seems to want to make more independent stuff, and people are going to read that as defense. But like, I kind of like that they're letting them continue to make these types of games. But there's no denying that the expectations are there, and you have to meet them in some capacity to show that, like, hey, Xbox, you bought these teams. what are you doing to make them better, not just make the same thing again? So I say all of that. The shot I'm calling is I think Avowed will get delayed. I think it is going to end up being a 2025 game.
We calling it. Okay,
I'm going to call my shot now.
All right.
I just think if you are alpha at the top of this year, I just don't see enough time to like hit beta, properly test, make sure everything's good, and then release it fall this year. That's ambitious, man. I mean, look, it's possible, but I just feel like I could see this one slipping to the top of 2025. That's not to fearmonger, because again, what I see looks great for alpha, and I think the game deserves a good chance. But if it releases like deep in the year, maybe. But everyone's development milestones are different. I'm not going to use my own as a measuring stick for what Avowed's doing, but to my knowledge, like I feel like there would be a larger gap between alpha and the full release of a game. Usually, sometimes we hear like, yeah, it's a couple of years away or something like that. But that's not for everybody. They're all different depending on the size of the game. And since this is smaller, it can come together a little more quick. It's encouraging to know what they were showing off was the third region in the game.
Yes.
Usually, again, depending on what project it is, like alpha could be like, hey, we have like the first region of the game completely done, content complete, visually represented, and the rest is like blocked out and ready to be like decorated and filled with content. Like, so the fact that they're at alpha and they have like the third region filled is pretty encouraging. So that's why I'm not worried. My worry, if anything, would be if Xbox were to rush this out the door.
Right.
And they already have a lot of great stuff on the way. So that's why I think Avowed, as I predicted, being in the back of the year is really beneficial to it, is we may have our fill by then, and Xbox can kind of, move it out if it has to be. I know they want to hit Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. We don't, as it stands right now, have a Q1 title. So unless like Towerborn ends up being it, I don't know what they're going to qualify those as. But my point being is I feel like Avowed could get a bump. That's my prediction based on what I'm seeing here. It's looking great for alpha. Maybe we'll probably see it again at the summer showcase. I hope we get a dedicated deep dive, but that's the shot I'm calling right now, is I think this game will get delayed inevitably. But otherwise, to kind of go with what the audience is saying here, I guess that does echo some of their concerns, but I have to say that Obsidian's still not showing the things that make their game special is, if anything, a little worrying to me. And by that, I don't mean their their dialogue and storytelling. I get you might want to be cagey with that. I'm talking about the things that seemingly make Avowed distinct. They're like, yeah, you can freeze the water and like use that to reach new areas. Why the hell didn't you show that? We have skill trees. Why didn't you show that? Like, why didn't you show progression? The UI is probably not done. That's why. It's an alpha. It's not close to finalized at all. And so that's why they can't show any of this, because it's going to look wildly different by the time that we get it. So there was a lot of stuff that they kept talking about. Companions, and they have abilities. Can show that. One thing I really took away from it, though, is I really appreciate Carrie Patel as a leader. I'm a little biased. I had the opportunity to interview her, so I doubt she fucking remembers me, but I know who of her. Salute. And so I've seen her go from like working in like a smaller leadership role in the Outer Worlds to directing Peril on Gorgon to now directing a full game. And her kind of approach of identifying the elements of teams working together. She admitted she was wrong on the show at one point with something in the combat side of things that the rest of the team is right, which I think is really valuable in a leader to like say like, hey, you were totally right on that. Like we should have done that. And that's why we did it. Complimenting the AA style development. Like these are great things to see in an up and coming director, I feel. So her vision seems sound. She talked a lot about cohesion. I just think the game needs to show more. They talked about how this is a story of choosing loyalties and what matters most to you. They keep talking choice. I really think another thing that would have benefited their showing is this. Right. They picked a random, they called it totally missable content, right? They said what you saw was totally missable.
Yes, they did say that, yeah.
Why didn't you show the two resolutions? If there's two endings to this side quest, why didn't you show how it can go different ways? That is the biggest testament to you guys continuing to do what you've done great is, hey, look how this ends and look at this. I get some people who are like, spoilers, bro. But like, they've got to sell people on the ideas behind their game. You can't just talk about it. You can't. And I know they may feel a little more liberated to just talk about it because of Game Pass. It's like, okay, I'll just see for myself, right? Like when the game comes out. That's totally fair. I get that mindset. But just, I'm not trying to crank on them hard because I don't feel concerned about the game. I think it looks great. I just think they need to start showing the strengths of this title. And the fact that they're hiding them is really weird. Something, again, we'll kind of maybe talk about with Hellblade 2. That's starting to, after our conversation on DD Cross Sacred Symbols and thinking about it over the couple of weeks, my thoughts have developed where it's like, okay, seeing the showcase as it is, like, it was definitely great, but there may have been some stuff a little more tucked away.
It's funny, while you're talking, I'm watching the Xbox showcase showing of Avowed, and I'm sitting and I'm like, this is what I was talking about. Like, I don't know, it just hit so much better. I'm looking at the variation, even in the combat there, and again, to your point, if you may be onto something, maybe the fact that they're alpha there and that they're figuring out, and right now we know as it is to be fall, right? So to be fall of this year, we have to admit this, to your point, if they do need more time, this is a stacked year, Maddie, for them. And I believe, here's the thing, they got Stalker at the end of the year, I believe.
Yeah, they have other stuff. Yeah, and Stalker's in September.
We have to admit, right, the ABK, November, what?
Call of Duty, right? Like, I think it might be like a...
Where would it fit? Honestly, I'm trying, unless you're talking September, but then we know indie is somewhere in here. Like, where do you put indie? Where do you put Avowed?
We have to, just the more you think about it, I'm not trying to advocate for it, but I want people to know, like, the more I thought about it, I'm like, this just kind of makes sense. Like, that this could be the game's fate. Like, it just gets...
If it is, maybe it transforms into a top of, 2025 type situation. But
and would that be so bad with what we know right now? I don't think so. But we'll see. We'll see. Sorry, I don't want to beat it over the head personally, just because it's my own speculation. But
no, you good. We'll see what happens. Again, I'm still not worried yet, but anyone who chirps and says, yo, Cog, I'm not there right now with the Black Rock, I totally respect it. I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. So we appreciate everyone writing in on that. Is there anything else you wanted to throw out there about Avowed before we move on?
No, let's see what happens. I'm very excited to see what happens this year.
All right. Let's keep it moving along then. Next up here, this one I was really excited about, actually. ID at Xbox introduces Indie Select. And I know what people are going to think is like, oh, Maddie's making a game. Like, he's going to, I see why he's excited about this. But no, actually, what's good about this is something that Sacred Symbols really championed, and then we took as a talking point for our own show because audience members were writing in, was, so the PlayStation Store and the Nintendo Store are like a fucking disaster, right? Like, these are loaded up with shovelware. Discoverability is nigh impossible. And Xbox has been complimented for keeping their storefront not only clean, but now they're taking this next step here. And I'm going to read from the Xbox Wire post, and people will understand why it's significant. Now, if my game does make it to Xbox, I will just say that, like, yeah, of course, this is great news for me if I can make it there. But, here's the thing. You gotta get selected. You got to be loved. All right. So they introduced a thing called Indie Selects. So they defined it here as saying, to build a legacy, we're excited to announce that we found a new way to bring attention to some of the top indie games on Xbox through our new Indie Selects program, which launches today as we're reading this. This is Wednesday, January 24th. Indie Selects includes a curated dedicated collection in the Xbox Store featuring indie games chosen by the ID at Xbox team, along with the support on our social and community channels, and even here on the Xbox Wire. In the game section of the dashboard, we now have a permanent hub that showcases indie games we are passionate about. A new collection featuring various channels and rotating themes will go live every Wednesday. The first channel, which we're simply calling Featured Indies, will include recent indie games that the ID at Xbox team has recommended. These are games that we've played and liked, and we feel positive indie game fans will enjoy too. Note that we're not including titles that are in Game Pass here, even if they're fantastic, simply because they're featured regularly on the hub, which I want to just pause there. That's important. That's what I'm talking about with discoverability, because Game Pass is the discovery tool. So they're saying, like, hey, if you didn't get the Game Pass bag, this is how we're going to put you in some sort of spotlight. Continuing on, they say, our second channel features a rotating selection of games that fit with a weekly theme. Looking for games to play with your cat, or games that need a laugh track, or games for evil villains? You'll find them here. We're working on a bunch of different fun ideas for themes right now to roll out over the coming months, and we'll always take suggestions for new themes or games to include in existing themes from players through our social channels. Other channels will include themes to highlight games from around the world, games from new creators and voices, our ID at Xbox theme sales, and select games available for pre-order. Finally, we now have a channel to feature upcoming indie games that can be added to a gamer's wish list, one of our indie devs' most highly requested features. This is huge again. And so continuing on, they say, in the best part, once a month, the last week of the month, we will showcase our choices for 6 titles to be designated as ID at Xbox Indie Selects of the month. The whole ID at Xbox team will vote to select their favorites, and these are the 6 games that we feel confident you'll love. These are games that we want to put our stamp of approval on. Not only will the Indie Selects be featured in a special collection for that week, we'll also release a monthly highlight reel on our social channels and publish an Xbox Wire article to dig more deeply into which games were selected and why we like them. In addition, developers will receive a digital award featuring the Indie Selects logo that they can show off on their channel, which they have as an example above. It's like surrounded with like a leaf and some funny faces. It's cool. You say, so why are we doing this? Short answer is we love games made by independent developers, and we want more people to discover them, buy them, and play them. We know there's a lot of games out there right now, and it is difficult for unique titles to find an audience in crowded marketplaces. With a dedicated, permanent, curated collection in the Xbox Store, we'll be able to bring more attention to games that we feel are particularly special. Everything from current favorites to older gems to games from new creators around the world. And that's pretty much it. So I apologize, it was a mouthful, but I think this is a big deal, Cog. What do you make of the Indie Select program that's been announced?
Oh, thank you for putting this to my attention. I'm coming in hot for a lot of things today, and to see this news is really surprising and super, super exciting. The reason why this is big is because we know Microsoft's vision. We know Xbox vision. It is Game Pass on some level. It is. And the thing about Game Pass was like, hey, you put your indie game in here and you share real estate with the biggest AAA title, Lies of P and Halo Infinite and Avowed and, Hellblade or whatever. So the question that me and Maddie always used to have is like, hey, like, if you don't get the Game Pass bag and you're an indie, what's the realistic expectation of your visibility, right? And this is, look, I've been championing the idea at Xbox team for so long, and I'm going to stay doing it because they are going above and beyond. I don't know if Chris Charlin and those guys are still there, but I forgot the gentleman. Or
Charlie's still there, yeah.
Yeah, Glenn Gregory, marketing man. Salute to them because this is a huge deal. Again, not only are they showcasing the indies, right? They're doing it. Then there's ones that they have played and that they're champions. So what I like about that, it doesn't necessarily be, oh, this is the new hotness and it's only whatever that's new and hot. The vibe I'm getting is, let's just say you missed out on, let's just say theoretically, what was it? Remember Death's Door at one point, you know what I'm saying? Or, these type of titles that were hot that were a while ago and say, hey, we recommend this. We played these games. We recommend it, and we're giving them their own visibility to the storefront. Then on top of that, not only are you giving them visibility, you are then giving them almost like a makeshift award, a dashboard spot. You're giving them like, it reminds me of like the Nintendo seal of approval, and then you're giving them the social media boost. Yeah. That is huge for a small team to get that type of recognition and say, yo, we are being recognized by Xbox as a high quality title, something that you need to play. Because this, obviously, I love my little artsy-fartsy stuff, right? So just imagine if, let's just say, Planet of Lana didn't get the Game Pass bag, right? Mm-hmm. And they're just regular indie out there next to anything. And they get an indie select and they get storefront space, they get social media promotion, they get that whole bit to kind of push them in the space. That's a huge deal. Yeah. And I just think about, again, my homie, like you about to make it. Yo, bro, let's say
you got to make a good game first.
True, but we got confidence. But my thing is, confident, yes. I feel good about it too. So my thing is, my man got to join out. Let's just say he don't get the Game Pass bag, but it's like, hey, we got a storefront for you. We have this space for you to go check it out. This is a big, and I will say that this is my theory, because this is really big because people don't understand. This goes against what the business model of Xbox is in the sense of we want to promote Game Pass, get in Game Pass, get in the subscription service, get your indie stuff there. This to me feels like, again, I'm just guessing, that ID at Xbox say, hey, we really need to promote these great games. We really want this initiative. And then they got the sign off to do this from up top. So you know what? We need to do it. That's a big deal because this is, every little team in a corporation, every little team kind of works in a silo. So the fact that the ID at Xbox team was able to either probably not work directly with the Game Pass team, but go to management and say, "Hey, this is what we want to do," and they got the sign off.
Yeah.
Huge deal. Indie Selects is huge deal. I'm going to overstate it. This is I love stuff like this. But what do you think? Am I blowing it up too much? Am I going too crazy?
Not at all. Not at all. I think that's why I wanted to put it towards the front of our show. I was like, I think this is really important that the audience sees this. I mean, Game Pass has been great for creating visibility for indies, but as you said, it's those who don't make that cut that I think this is really important for. Also, like one thing, like when I was making our round of pitches for the first time, just to feel how people felt about our game at the time. One thing that was strongly recommended to me, and of course I would anyway, is like, oh, you should leverage all the channels you have. Like no developer really has what you have, which is 2 YouTube channels, maybe more in the future. You have, the podcast. Like you should definitely utilize that. I'm like, of course, like I want to earn people's time, but I'm definitely going to make them aware that it exists. Not many people have that arm, like that kind of built-in marketing arm to kind of launch a game, see if people are interested in it. If they're interested in it, then the kind of word of mouth from there. Like, people don't have that. So for those who don't get Game Pass and they don't have, maybe they're not lucky enough to have what I have, this is like a perfect thing for them. And that's why it needs to be overstated, is it's creating more discoverability, which has been needed, right? And it's doing it in a way that reminds me again of the glory days of PlayStation 4 indies, where they were just fucking crushing it, man. Especially, it was really during the Vita days, because there was like a real spotlight on that, because those are the cheaper games to make that fit on the system well. And it was, God, I remember those days. So much fun finding the next indie game. So much fun. So yeah, I really got to compliment Xbox for this. I feel like this is going to be really good for the indie ecosystem, which was already, by the way, growing a ton for them. Like, a lot of people have just said like, this is way better to work with. You think this isn't going to win them points? I don't know what to tell you. Everyone who's working on a game, the second they hear discoverability, it's not even almost about making a great game. There are great games that are missed constantly. You see a platform saying, we're going to get a storefront page, a dashboard page, your shit's good, you're going to get featured. Bro, do you think people aren't going to flock to that and be like, well, we have a better chance of getting found over here? Like it's a big deal.
Yeah, I just want to add in, and we talked about this on the crossover. Like you say, great point about speaking into existence and actually action, but it's like another thing I want to give them credit is, like, this, we always, we're hard on Xbox a lot. Let's just be honest. We are, and fairly when
depends on who you ask.
Yeah, oh yeah,
we love Xbox. They do no wrong.
People who truly listen to the show know how we give it up as far as when Xbox could be better, right? And I think we're balanced in that respect. So my thing is, one thing we've always said is like, damn, bro, y'all got lapped in achievements, how that happened, and this, that. And I think that's fair, right? We always say that, like, PlayStation has done this, the platinum, and yada, yada, yada. But I got to keep it real. And again, not trying to fanboy a console war. I'm just looking at the platforms comparatively, right? And if you look at that, I personally feel that they have lapped PlayStation. It was something that PlayStation really was strong at during the start of the PS4 era, with the reso guns and the indie station and giving them a place to live, like you said. And I never forget, Xbox had the worst reputation.
So hard to believe too, right? Because you look at like State of Decay and what it's turned into, you're like, wait, that was like through their summer arcade program and stuff. It just, to see it become a shell of itself was stunning.
I remember developers, like it was yesterday, saying, bro, we want to put our indie game on Xbox, but it's so difficult, and these fees and these processes and these loops. And that's why, guys, you're not getting our great game that everyone else likes, kind of thing. To see where they are now. And the last thing I want to say is we have to give them credit, or who you want to call the talent acquisition, whoever's in charge of the selection of these games into the service. And we'll get into, even though Palworld is in Game Pass, but you know what I mean? Just overall, whoever's doing the scouting, Xbox has really lapped everybody in this, in my opinion. I just got to be real.
They're starting to get their finger on the pulse, like we kind of talked about. Palworld's kind of the big one on that one, but
right, absolutely. But yeah, but I love to see it. I love to see it. It's great stuff.
All right, let's keep moving along here, Cog. We got another one here. It's a pretty big deal, big rumor. Final Fantasy 16 to Xbox. This came through Special Nick, who there was like a moment in his show that he I guess he was sent something, and he was like, I'm not going to say that. And he said what he was told later on. He said it was Final Fantasy 16 coming to Xbox, which sounds, we talked about this on the crossover episode. This sounds I agree with Colin, a lot more plausible than like 7 remake. Like I could see this coming sooner, especially because there was a little bit of question marks at first, not anymore, surrounding like the financial success of Final Fantasy 16. Now that we know it is a success, and that's great to see, I think it'd be smart to just, with that new partnership with Xbox, bring this bad boy over and make all your money on your movie game. So Cog, Final Fantasy 16 to Xbox, do you believe it?
Yeah, I'm coming to shout to Special Dick, friend of the realm. Look, it makes sense. And I am starting to buy in on Final Fantasy 16 ahead. At first I didn't, but now I'm starting to buy in Final Fantasy 16 ahead of 7 Remake. Because again, like we discussed with the crossover, we do know Sony does value 7 Remake. And even though we know that the deal is ending, there is a chance it could be extended, right? Sony has done stuff like that. If the bag is thrown, kind of thing. And maybe 7 Remake, it's announced, but maybe Xbox, they don't get, the full trilogy or kind of like they get a collection of other. It's kind of this discussion we had with Colin. He made some great points, which was in reference to like, hey, maybe you take that Forspoken first and then you take all of this and you know what I mean? And then, you know what I'm saying?
Forspoken to Game Pass before Final Fantasy would break a lot of hearts, but it's possible with the package deal, right?
Package, hey, you take this. I mean, remember with Sega was like, yo, we'll get you like a dragon, the new hotness eventually, but hey, you're going to take all of the Yakuza series and then we're going to put all of that in Game Pass.
Yeah. 2 Point Hospital.
2 Point Hospital. Sega was giving all of the, what is it, football?
Yeah, Football Manager, yeah.
You got to take my baby. You got to take Football Manager, you know what I'm saying? So it's like a little deal. So I agree with Colin on that. So yeah, I think 16, if I had to guess, in the hierarchy, they would be ahead and closer.
Yeah, well, give it time. I'm sure we'll find out more. I think we'll get something from Square Enix during the summer showcase. I feel like that's where they got to pull off the lid. That or the Tokyo Game Show could be also a good spot for it. But
they definitely like showing up at the Xbox events lately.
They do. Mm-hmm. They do. All right, we got a really interesting one here that slid under the radar for a ton of people. This one is about Quake 6. During the Machine Games presentation for Indiana Jones, a little bit of a dry erase board segment was caught, which was talking about Quake 6, and it had a little logo, and you could see the Quake was written there. And this kind of matches up because we just talked about, before Indiana Jones had any showing, we just sat here on Defining Duke, and I went over how I said, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what's taking them so long. We know they worked on Quake 2 remaster. They did the brand new expansion pack there. I think it was something of the machine. I forgot what it was called. But they worked on that. And there's been a rumor for a while that a new Quake game was in development, but originally people thought it was id. But it's possible, and I wouldn't be surprised if id's working on a Doom game, and that after this, Machine Games is moving on to Quake, because they are very good first-person shooter developers to the point where they made Indiana Jones first-person, which is upset a lot of people, it seems. But Quake 6 teaser, Cog. Any thoughts on this one?
I can't believe I missed this. It was brought to my attention. I was just like, sneaky. Yeah.
It was put there deliberately, right? Like, yeah. And 6 is interesting, right? Because you had Quake 1 through 4, you had Champions. So there's never really a bona fide Quake 5. But if you count Quake Champions, that would be 5, and then 6, whatever that may be.
Yeah. So we get to see what they're doing. Listen, man, it is insane. Right now, I'm just at the point I'm losing track of all the games they actually got cooking. And again, but this is to be expected. And we know Machine Games, we know id. When it comes to that FPS over there, that's what them boys do. That whole team over there. We'll see what it is when they're ready to show. But yeah, it was cool to see that I was stuck in.
Yeah. I like it. It indicates to me what I was starting to feel more and more is when I was like, what's going to go first, right? Like we heard these rumors of Wolfenstein 3 based on what Pete Hines said years ago now. I was like, that can't be part of the plans anymore. So Indiana Jones is clearly the focus. They've made a lot of progress with it. And it's like, what's next after this? It's like, I don't know if they're going to go back to Wolfenstein for a while, right? Like Wolfenstein 1 did really well. Wolfenstein 2, I don't think sold spectacularly. And Youngblood, it was a sour way to go out, but Youngblood definitely didn't do well. So it's been on that steady decline. Now you got Indy, which is going to bring them to a new height.
Yeah, right now.
From there, you go to Quake. It makes sense that they're going to retool possibly and move on from Wolfenstein for a stretch of time. I do hope they come back to and kind of finish that story though, because Wolfenstein deserves that.
Oh, such a good story. Such a good story.
All right. We got an interesting one here, Cog. Surprised we didn't get many write-ins on this one. No more seasons for Halo Infinite as of January 30th. Instead, they will be offering smaller operations. So I got the direct quotes here. Quote, we're making a shift, and this comes from the community manager, Brian Gerard. We're making a shift in how we're approaching Infinite going forward. We're no longer referring to seasons. We're shifting away from seasons semantically. For what it's worth, our January 30th update will henceforth be known as CU29. An article I read, I think this is from Rock, Paper, Shotgun, said operations will feature 20 tiers and will run for 4 to 6 weeks. And the first is Halo Wars theme. CU29's map is for the arena mode and is called Illusion. And the update will also include new Forge features, a new armor core, and customization features. Quote, we have a dedicated team working on supporting Halo Infinite and continuing to deliver going forward. But also, yes, we have additional teams now that are accelerating towards the future, working on brand new projects. So I would just want to tantalize you with that. There are a lot of things cooking here. We could not be more excited, end quote. So for some people, they interpret this as the death of Halo Infinite. Like, this is it. They're moving on. Support is done for because they're not doing seasons, but operations. My interpretation was like, I don't think this is as doom and gloom as people read it to be. They're providing more frequent updates is what they're doing. They're just not calling them seasons because instead of an update every 3-4 months, you get one monthly pretty much. And it's going to be smaller and more broken up. And that means it can vary in size because they're splitting up their teams to work on other stuff. So, look, man, like, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world for this game, especially when we knew they eventually had to start focusing on that next Halo thing. And my prediction still stands that I think Halo Infinite is going to be the long-standing multiplayer solution for whatever's next in the Halo lineup story-wise. Like, they're not going to make a multiplayer mode. They're just going to feed you back into Infinite. I'm sticking with that because I feel like, look, man, if 76 is getting support on a small two teams and it's doing pretty well, I feel like Infinite, now that they have the pipeline clearly established, we've seen, look at seasons 1 and 2 and 3, I guess, although 3 had major feature additions. But look at how the content is ramped up dramatically in seasons 4 and 5, if you will, right? Look at the absolute explosion of content. Now look at this operation. Another map, another set of features, another armor core, more customization options. I don't think the game is going anywhere. I just think that they don't need as big of a team on the project now because the pipeline is established. It is firing on all cylinders. You do have Forge. You are going to have community content. You don't need this amount of manpower. It's better management, actually, which is something we have come down on Halo Infinite and 343.
Good point.
So that's my read of the situation. A lot of reports and a lot of people on YouTube are like, yeah, this is the end. And I'm like, I don't see it that way. And everyone knows on this show, I've to the point where they complain about it in the Defining Duke server. I've been known to be like fucking shitting on Halo Infinite constantly to the point where our audience couldn't stand me.
That's a fact. They was mad with you.
I read it.
They was mad with us. I was with you on certain things too. Yeah, they were mad with us.
I know, but most people just could not stand because I was very aggressive.
Yeah, you were aggressive. I remember you passionate.
I was like telling them, go work on something else.
Yes, I remember.
Because I said their time here was done.
Yeah, I do remember.
So yeah,
it's coming back now.
Yeah, but plus you're nicer than me. People like you more.
No, stop.
It's okay. I gotta take the heat off you, man.
You play the villain role. Okay.
Ukag, I gotta know for you.
Yo,
what is your read of the sitch? Do you think Halo Infinite is this game that is on the downswing? Is it dying slowly? What is 343 cooking? What is next? They said brand new projects, plural. Mm-hmm. And last rumor we heard was that there may be a shelved Battle Royale mode, although Special Nick rolled that one back. So there's a lot of uncertainty, but we know things are moving in Halo beyond Infinite's multiplayer. What does you read?
Yeah, look, as a person who plays these live service games, I read it that they have found their cadence, and that whenever they switch from a seasons now to this operations, that's the cadence that they can deliver content with and in a consistent basis. And look, these updates, we gotta be real, they've been really substantial. These maps, everyone's raving. People are going crazy with the Halo War stuff. Right now they've found their pocket. So it's what we consider the live team. The live team now is going to be working on Halo Infinite to deliver that consistent, live service type content that they had the issue with in the beginning. That was the problem. The game was never the problem. They didn't have the cadence and the consistency with the live service model. That's what doomed Halo Infinite. And people have revisionist history. We always remember the campaign, for the most part, solid. The multiplayer, played phenomenal. But then we had them same old maps and terrible, oh, we can't change the helmet with this suit, and we can't do that. We're locked to this. And then the customization was so bland and weak, and a little flamey head here, and that was the end of the track. You get a little flamey head. I'm like, that's it. And it was just, oh, you get the right shoulder at 15 level, you get the left shoulder at 25 level. Remember all that foolishness that it was just so archaic, and you could tell it was bare bones. And that's the stuff that keeps people in. So that's where they had to drop off. After a while, you done played the maps to death. You done did the weak customization, and there was nothing new to keep feeding it. That was the problem with Halo Infinite, right? So now they're way past that. They're in a zone as far as customization, maps, and features and stuff like that. From the multiplayer's perspective, that's great. Operations to me represents that they are still continuing as far as multiplayer live service content. They still got maps. They still got features. We don't know about the Battle Royale mode. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that part is changed or scrapped, and we'll see what goes on. But I think you said it best. Bro, when I see a sentence that, and they literally tease it. They literally say, yo, we're working on brand new projects, plural. Plural. Oh, that excites me about 343. What are said projects? You are the Halo studio. What projects could you be working on? Right? So you got that. And then they say, we want to tantalize you with that. We want to excite. We want to let you know. I got to be real. Something's cooking. I think your theory is pretty sound, at least at the very base, that another Halo iteration of something is coming, or taking it in a potential different genre, things that maybe the community has asked for. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. Maybe I'm going too far with the genre thing, but there is something else cooking that they're excited about. Maybe the certain affinity project now goes with that, or maybe that part is canceled and there's a refined focus on whatever this new vision is. COG would not be opposed to real strong. I mean, I'm hearing campaign content will come with some of the I'm lightly hearing, but I don't know how true that is. But I would love to continue the Master Chief story at some point. You know what I'm saying? And if you are putting your resources towards the next iteration of it for the next 4 or 5 years or whatever, or if you happen to have a side project where you want to change your direction and tell all these stories with all these great characters, you've got the opportunity. I want to see what 343 does. I would love to see them change up. And this is what it sounds like to some level. And it sounds like they're trending in the correct direction. So we got to give them credit for basically getting Halo Infinite back on track to where it should have been. And now in a healthy spot. Now let's see what the rest of these projects are. But no, this is good stuff for me.
Yeah. I don't want to say I'm optimistic yet, because I mean, that part of me has not disappeared, audience. Yeah, that part of me has not disappeared. Just because I think Infinite's in a great spot now does not mean I'm suddenly like, bring on the next one. It's just going to be great. It's like, I hope it's great at launch, and that it's just, nice and complete.
If they use Unreal and have contractors that actually, are familiar with not this bespoke proprietary engine that it's very difficult to use for what the report said, and you now use an industry standard. My main thing is if they do that, right, and they use Unreal, which is fine as far as development of game, my only concern is just Halo has a core feel to it, and you just got to make sure that aspect, if this is the vision, translates to UE5, which I think it will, but I'm just saying, that's my only thing. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Who knows? And to your point, they have to earn it, right? There are a lot of people that were burnt and said, nah, fam, you guys did a lot of damage, and we need to see more. So I get where you go. I get where you go.
I appreciate your understanding, sir.
No doubt, no doubt.
All right, we got more news to go through here. This is kind of a two-parter. There was a article posted by gamesindustry.biz talking about a year of years of closures is what it's called. They said if 2023 was a year of layoffs and 2024 is a year of closures, and these two leaders, that industry leaders that spoke to gamesindustry.biz, said brace for 2 years of pain. Since this is posted, but prior to this being posted, we've already seen numerous layoffs. Riot just suffered an 11% staff layoff of 530 positions globally. They shut down their Riot Forge publishing division, which is a shame because that part of the company never put out anything bad. I think they were just really late to when League was like popping off, and they should have been on top of it quicker, but it's a shame because they were putting out really good games, and seeing League, as someone who really enjoys League of Legends, go beyond, like go into turn-based and go into these adventure style games, and Arcane is this popular show. Like, to see League go in those directions is really exciting as someone who just, enjoys it as like the MOBA that siphons all of my time away when I choose to play it. But we're at the point now where the stats are showing we're a third of the way to the layoffs in total from 2023, right? So we're definitely going to blow past that number. And we may see some studios shuttering or divisions shuttering, as we've seen here with Riot Games. And it's a shame because, Riot was kind of like saying, we grew too much. And this has been the same story for everyone. We grew too much. Production during the pandemic was not at a high. Took advantage of the digital age. And now people are getting laid off, unfortunately. And it's going to continue to happen pretty much everywhere. The games industry is definitely going to be ravaged by it, and it's going to be tough. So Cog, your thoughts on not only what gamesindustry.biz wrote, but also what's happened with Riot Games and many other teams lately?
Yeah, man, the Riot stuff is just heartbreaking. You're just like, man, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, I know you're a League player. I know people who really go hard for it. And, that stuff breaks my heart. Studio closures really affect me. Yeah. That's the part I always go to war. I'm like, bro, I want these games to be around. So I'm always like, yo, get your bag, do what you got to do. Or like, that's why I'll be honest. That's why I think sometimes I get into that, Lord acquisition bag sometimes and all that, only because I just think about, what could happen. Because I'm old enough to remember the companies like Acclaim and Midway and, these iconic, indomitable, publishers that they were just on top of the world. And like that, they are gone from this industry and we lose all these great games. So yeah, I think we're in a, I think we're coming out of it, but I do agree with the gamesindustry.biz that we probably 2 years in, right? Still. And a lot of this has got to be real. And I've said this before. It was the fool's gold of the COVID era. And a lot of that data came in and people go, oh my God, people are playing more games than ever. Look at our engagement ramp up, right? Thinking that was going to be the new normal because we had everyone inside. You had people who were playing games more than before, people who would never play games now trying games just to get through this pandemic. That lasted, let's say, for a year or two. You're ramping up. You're seeing this profit. You're seeing this. Oh, this is the new trend, baby. We lit. Let's ramp up. Let's hire. We do it.
Seems so short-sighted, though, right? Like,
yeah,
not to pick, but man,
it is. I listen. I've seen it in multiple industries. I've seen it in multiple disciplines. This is the word on the street. And then once things started to dissipate, then the numbers started to flatten. And it's like, oh my God, we hired way too many people. Yeah. And these projects are not hitting. And now it's oversaturation. And now it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Here come the layoffs. Each round. I've seen it with my own eyes. So it's just like, and I've been in these situations where I'm looking to see if my name was going to get called because I'm like, what happens is corporations start to look and say, okay, who's the most viable. It said, I literally lived it. And, I was fortunate, saying for the most part to survive. My situation is different when, obviously I'm not with men anymore. But, this is stuff that goes on. This is, I seen it. So, yeah, I think we're still about a year or two away for full recovery for a lot. I don't think I've had this internal discussion with really high end people. Some people are like, I think the industry's gonna crash. I don't think we're there. I think we're in a year or two of. I do think the pain. Yeah, the first one, someone who said in this article, year or two of pain. I think that's accurate. I do think, on a side note, Grand Theft Auto not being this year hurts the games industry big time. Hurts the damage, because from a console sale perspective, there's few games that move. Like, there's only that elite crew. Well, you know what I'm saying? If you want to throw Call of Duty, Minecraft, there's only a certain crew. Grand Theft, when they come around, it is a definitively industry shaking. Everyone is part of this. Remember the conversation me and you had about, I guess some people, I forgot, some groups hating the trailer based on it showing a microcosm life, but the rest of the world was like, yep, that's it. That's what we want. That's how we, like, that's what Grand Theft Auto is, the ultimate rebellious game, in a sense of the people speak, yes, we want that. We don't care about your political correctness. We don't care. We want this thing. And Grand Theft is always fun. They're symbolic in that respect. I come from the era Grand Theft got to be banned. I remember this era. Yeah. So it missing 2024 is a huge deal. So when that comes out, that's going to affect the industry. But yeah, overall, I think these points are valid. I think these are we're still not out of it yet. Yeah. So the riots, and sadly, I think we're going to get some more.
Yeah, it's regulating, right? Like, going back to where, I don't want to say where it should be, like I'm advocating for it, but it's going back to where it's sustainable based on what's being spent and what's being made. And I wonder if it's going to result in different types of games being made, like Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed, not Assassin's Creed, sorry, Prince of Persia and the Lost Crown. Like, that's a smaller game for sure. And like, I wonder if we're going to see more of that while this adjustment's being made. Like, hey, we're about to start bleeding money and we got to greenlight a new project. Like, we can't greenlight the next big AAA thing. Like, we got to make something smaller. So we might be in the next couple of years in for a slew of really tighter experiences, which could be an optimistic look from the consumer's point of view.
And we're seeing signs of it on certain things, with length of titles, with the Insomniac leaks in terms of the budgets are too big. Maybe we split these up. Maybe here comes $50. And I mean, we're going to get it. I'm not
you're right, though. We're
seeing little symbols that we go, that's interesting. Y'all never did that before. What's this about? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We got to see.
Well, best wishes to anyone who's affected by these layoffs, of course. And with that, we got two little bits of news left here. We got Square Enix, who said something, and I just had to highlight. I don't know what we could add to this, but I pulled this from an article. Takashi discusses two weak points in the Square Enix business. The first is over-reliance on certain gameplay styles or genres, with a particular emphasis on Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. The second point where I see us lacking is in our marketing. Not only is content increasingly being sold digitally, but the range of devices capable of delivering content is also diversifying. I want us to establish stronger capabilities that enable us to market efficiently, in that environment. Because our portfolio has included strong IPs like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy franchises, we have tended to focus our resource allocation on content development. Going forward, however, we need to strengthen our publishing function, which manages our marketing. I want to focus on putting the right capabilities in the right place in that domain, which will also involve some hiring, end quote. So seemingly taking away from some of the development budget to just put the name of the game out there, which we'll see what happens with that. But there are countless examples I could pull out. My favorite is Octopath Traveler 2. No marketing. Live Alive, no marketing. Like, these H2 2D games, and I mean, they still sell well because like the audience that wants these games is hungry for them, right? Especially with the Square Enix name stamped on it, sold, right? Easy sales, right? But like Triangle Strategy selling over 1 million units, like that's with it had marketing, but like not a ton. Square had a great game come out called Paranormal Site, which was like a horror visual novel series, just just dropped one day. No mention of it. The Adventures of Die, that game Colin was excited for. I don't know why, but like that game came out and just goodbye. That's it. Like it just, there was no marketing. There's been no build up to any of their titles. It's like, oh, it's Dragon Quest. Oh, it's Final Fantasy. Like I should check that out. And that's really it. They're hoping the audience just keeps doing that. So this has been needed for a long while. And it's also like their marketing selection, like Forspoken got marketed. It got marketed. Just, that probably wasn't the one. Like Final Fantasy 16. Oh, it got marketed. 7 Rebirths, we're getting close to over marketed.
Oh,
like
yeah,
we're seeing a lot of that game, man.
Too much now.
Yeah, I'm like, chill out, Square. So I don't know at times if it's really like we need to market more. It's like you need to market selectively and spread the wealth is how I look at it. So Cog, Square Enix sees their own shadow here. They're like, oh, we're bad at marketing. What do you make of this as they forge a closer partnership with Xbox?
Yeah, I think of the key sentence here. Not only is our content increasingly being so digital, but the range of devices capable of delivering content is also diversifying. That statement rings a lot of things in my head. And again, range of devices, not only is content being so digitally, but the range of device. That to me, you want to be everywhere. You want to be on more platforms. You want, more of this market presence for some of these titles. And I do agree with the outside of Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, these really high quality Square Enix titles like an Octopath or a Triangle Strategy that I shout out to my boy Flame from LordsOfGaming.net, shout out to Lord Addict. They go super hard for it. And they're like, bro, these games are game of the year contenders and no one knows. So part of it is self-inflicted by focusing on just what they consider the heavyweights internally when they got banging. So yeah, I think this is part of the shift. I think this is why Xbox relations have improved because it aligns now with their vision and they're looking at what they could be doing here. So yeah, all of this to me is consistent with how they've been moving lately. So yeah, I'm not too surprised here.
All right. Last bit of news here is before we talk about what we're playing. We're going to talk about CD Projekt Red, who kind of ran in a little bit of a circle here. They're considering adding multiplayer to Cyberpunk sequel. And I just thought that was kind of hilarious to see because there was the rumors and the conversations that like multiplayer would come to Cyberpunk 2077. And I'm wondering how you feel about this, Cog, because I don't think it needs multiplayer, but how do you feel about this potential addition to the sequel?
Very surprising. Yeah, I was surprised by this. Look, I'm not going to refuse multiplayer, but it does feel something from left field. I mean, remember, because we were told that, if I recall, Manny, that after Phantom Liberty, that's it, y'all. We kind of going on. So to me, this seems like second legs. And lately, Cyberpunk has been the apple of everyone's eye. They're out here winning the New York Game Awards. I believe they took one, or at least nominated for a few. Game Awards, they I believe they took one or two. I'm assuming the financial success of Phantom Liberty is there. And maybe there's some internal discussion about, hey, we had this on the cutting room floor. Maybe we don't move away and we add multiplayer. Look, I'll probably be of the sense, people going to disagree with me. I'm probably one of the few that be like, all right, I'll be willing to see what it is. You know what I'm saying? I'll be willing to say, okay, if you want to jump in that space, how does that work? Look, I'm all about more Cyberpunk. I'm not, what I'm saying? So I will say that, but it is interesting to see how it will be implemented. And we do know what they said, announced Witcher projects and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
they got a lot going on.
The vibe I got is like, yo, this was the last hurrah. We fixed it. We came back. We're good now. Now we're on to the thing. But don't it look like they want to stay a little longer and get a part of this live service situation? That's what that sounds like to me. But you tell me where you at with this.
I'm trying to understand the vision here because they've switched off a Red Engine, which I get after the launch of Cyberpunk. Why you would do that. And I guess there's some issue there that, at least I'm assuming, that we don't know about. You switch engines, so you got to rebuild the tool set from, to my knowledge, the ground up. I don't know what carries over to Unreal Engine. That But I imagine it will be a while before we get another Cyberpunk game. So you've already started from the ground. And sorry, go ahead.
Do want to interject because I'm do looking at. I want to make sure we're right. The vibe I'm getting now is that the boss, this is an IGN article, that they think about adding multiplayer to a Cyberpunk 2077 sequel is what I'm seeing now. So
Right.
maybe okay. So I got it wrong. I thought it was like the existing game. So this
Oh,
is
no, sorry, the sequel.
okay.
That's right.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So you're rebuilding from the ground up. You've got to retain the series DNA to some kind, which is like immersive first-person gameplay. So everything from kind of the first-person cutscenes that don't lock you in, dialogue options, choice and consequence, gunplay feeling amazing, all that stuff. Like you've got to redial that kind of expectation in. I don't know how long that'll take based on like the design framework they already have established, like what can you bring over and so on. And then you want to build multiplayer on top of it. Like it's ambitious, and I like that they're setting these ambitious goals for themselves. But I definitely, I don't want to say I worry, because like I loved Cyberpunk when it came out. I love it even more now. Like CD Projekt Red has always delivered for me. But I see this type of stuff and I'm like, just get the single player right. This game original made all of its money back on pre-orders before the game even came out.
Yes.
People are authentically excited about your single player stuff. Just focus on getting that right first, please. Like we don't need another disaster. Do multiplayer after it. Let it be additive. That's what everyone is expecting nowadays, right? Like bring it afterwards. Surprise us. Add your live service elements. Because look at Cyberpunk won a live service award pretty much at the Game Awards, right? Like, so you're a single player game. So people are there for the updates, man. Like make this one of those surprise additions that you do. It'll do totally fine that way. I don't think making it a core focus when you're building your sequel, I don't know, man. Not crazy about the idea.
I get your concern. I think that's valid. I think that, it's valid concern. I think that, they're even discussing whether or not they want to include third person as well with this stuff as well, which is another big talking point. But yeah, I see where you're going. Like you make these amazing stories, you make this crazy single player, this fantastic world of Night City, focus on that, nail that, then maybe add this as additive content. I see it. You know what also too, last part I'll say, it depends on, because this is the part we don't know, the scope of the multiplayer. If they're doing something what I consider traditional multiplayer or something smaller like Last of Us 1 multiplayer or, Ghost of Tsushima, multiplayer where, you jump in for a minute, you do what you got to do, but then it's kind of over after a certain part, right? So I don't know but if they're attempting live service, then that's going to, we just came off a Halo Infinite with a game that's the scope as all these different hubs to it. That it, to your point, that's a big, undertaking. So we'll see.
Indeed, we shall. So with that, Cog, that's the news for now. Let's talk about what games are playing. Got a few for each of us. Would you like to go first, sir?
Yeah, mine's is the lightest. It's been a light week for me as I prepare for my, what they call it, Sophie's Choice. Everyone's clowning me, Maddie.
Wow, why are you getting clowned?
Bro, they are killing me on social media. They're like, bro, what is Cog gonna do? This is the week as if we're recording. It's the 24th. This is the week of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth and Tekken 8 on the same day.
And guess what reviewed really well?
And dudes are sending me the Metacritic. Yeah, both 90. What you gonna do? And I'm like, oh God. So I'm in trouble. And this is already a crazy week. And I'm just like, I'm trying to figure it out. So the only thing I was able to sneak in for a little bit was Baldur's Gate. And I'm trying. Man, I'm so behind. And I'm like, oh my God. And I don't want this to happen to Baldur's Gate, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good with the week I'm about to have and with these ratings of my two favorite games coming out. So look,
your dropping of Baldur's Gate will be understood, I promise.
Look, I will come back to it. Because I'm having, bro, here's the thing with Baldur's Gate. I'm so engrossed with the minutia of now setting up you know what? kitting my character. Oh, I got a ring that now coincides with this spell and this build and then gives me this extra skill. You know what I'm saying? Then it's like, oh, I got boots. Like now bro, I pick up every item and I'm going through all right, no, that's going to be better on Will because he's got this build right now and I'm doing the two-handed spear and then I got Shadowheart with the like I'm in this pocket and it's dangerous because I am a build guy. People don't realize Destiny, I love the shooting and skyboxes and all. That's great. And the raids, which I think is the greatest cooperative experience in game. I'll die on that hill. Yeah. But when it comes to build crafting, that's why I stay in Destiny. Oh, I got this exotic and it's going to pair well with this thing and this special ability. Baldur's Gate done unlock something in me right now. And now I got the 4 characters and I'm just like, yo, I love this. I love it. And I'm getting stuff all the time. I'm going to different shopkeepers and I'm like, oh, you have that. Oh, that looks great. And now I'm getting my monk. His staff game is crazy. Crazy. I got some things that he gets to go twice if you in the area. Like if I'm next to a boss, like you know how you got your reaction time if a lot of you guys are together? He's got some things right now. Like low key, I think I picked like the greatest character. Like my monk is really good. Yeah. Oh my God, this dwarven monk is just amazing. So I'm in a good pocket. I'm trying my best now for Act 2. And it's going to be a tough week. It's going to be a tough week. But Baldur's Gate, I love you. I'm not dropping you completely, but Ichiban is coming. Harang is coming. Get ready for the next new challenger.
I get it, dude.
I'm in trouble, and I want to be a Hawaii. Bro, it's a tough week. It's a tough week.
I get it, dude.
So
especially, dude, I can only imagine, like, I'm a big Tekken fan. I'm like less of the new era of Yakuza, but like, dude, when you have like your 2 most amped games scoring this well across the board, I'm actually kind of more interested in Infinite Wealth now, not comparatively speaking. Like, I'm way more interested in Tekken, but Infinite Wealth, I'm going to skip on now because I'm going to play Persona instead.
Oh, yeah, you got Persona. Right?
But I'm really excited to get to it because some of the reviews I are watching seem to share my criticisms of the game, of the original, I should say.
Oh, yes.
Like the grinding, the combat not feeling right, the one-hit final boss KO, and so on.
You ain't kid yourself, right? But
no, give me a break. That shit was awful. I'll go off on this game again.
User issue.
Yeah, whatever. Point being is they said none of that was present here. I was like, oh, excellent. And so I'm excited because what I saw with like the island and the mini games, I was like, yeah, this looks like a good time. So I'm very excited about it, but I'll play it either later in the year or like a Dragon. I'll just get to it years down the line because I still want to go on the Yakuza pilgrimage. That hasn't faded away. Still want to do it. And so now that I'm knowing, like I'm committing to a particular direction, it's like, yeah, I'm going to take my time, go through all these games and get to Infinite Wealth over time.
Yeah, make sure you have a Snickers when you play with my man. I notice you're always playing my man kicking and scratching, and I think he will get a fair shake, but it's okay.
No one's gonna force me into this one. I've chosen my own destiny.
Good. And are you finished with Trails? Because you know that. And
are you done with Baldur's Gate or?
I'm done with Baldur's Gate because bro, it was a light week for me. Very light week. The end of this week and next week, Dukes and Rumble the Dukes. I got y'all. I'll give y'all more in depth. I'll be popping off a lot to talk about next week.
Trails Through Daybreak is almost done. I tried to get it done before this show, but I didn't want to rush it, man. I'm in the finale right now. I'm probably 5 hours away. I'm honestly, like, as I'm recording this, I'm gonna try to hammer it out tonight if I have the time to, because I'm very close and I am now playing another game under embargo that I can't talk about, but I need to put some hours into that. So I want to kind of wrap this up, but I'm sad to see it go, man. It's like, this is, wow, it is really, really spectacular. It goes into themes that I just never expected the series to tackle. Never, ever. It's a really mature story, from all things like AI, racial issues, social justice issues. I mean, it reminds me of how I felt about Persona 5, where I was like, or Persona 4, like, oh, like you're going to go there. Like, okay, cool. Like, I didn't expect that based on the tone of the game. But I mean, Daybreak takes itself pretty seriously, but I didn't expect it to go, like, especially with AI. it does some crazy shit. I'm like, this, I did not expect any of that. So it continues to blow me away. I'm at the point where like anyone who's played a Trails game knows like you finish these chapters and it feels like the main arc is done, but like the game's in the finale stages and it's still hanging on. I'm just like, what is going to happen? Like what? Everything seems done. Like, what are we doing here? So I know Trails well enough where like most people go, it went on a few hours too long. I'm like, no, they're cooking. They're cooking. So something is happening right now, and they are going to. I will be a change man by the end of today, which is crazy to think about. So I know because I'm like, this game could have ended, and it's still going. I'm thinking there's one question I still have about the game. I won't say what because I don't want to create any expectations for anyone. There's one question about one character I have, and I'm like, you know what? I bet that's what they're going for right now, and they're teasing it. So I think I'm right, but excellent game. Excellent game. So I'll be done with that come next week. And I'll talk about something other than Trails for the what we're playing section. But yeah, phenomenal game, and praying for all of you when Daybreak comes out in the West. And I get to just wax poetic again about it week after week when it's in English.
Nice.
Been playing Palworld. Mm-hmm. I will save my thoughts on it because we have a whole section of the show dedicated for that. So there's really nothing else I can go into because the other title I'm playing is embargoed. So it's one of our shorter what we're playing sections.
Yeah, it's one of our shorter ones.
Yeah, we're boxed in right now. We got contracts and game presentations to take care of. So we weren't gaming, you nerds. All right, Cog, let's keep rolling along here. We got one more question and we'll get into the news. Your boy Nikki V writes in, hey, Barry, he eats out at Five Guys Eversley, and Matthew, he gets eaten out by Five Guys Schroeder. Damn, whoa. Man, Nikki, come on, bro. What's going on?
Whoa.
That went left.
That was super left.
Steven, now I can't have the pause moment of the show. Nikki has taken that away.
He won that.
Dudes with Tekken and Yakuza launching to rave reviews. See, this is the funny part about his writings. These wild intros, and he's just well spoken afterwards, like a normal, just a normal collegiate. It's beautiful.
Yes,
dudes with Tekken and Yakuza launching to rave reviews, and Rebirth, Dragon's Dogma, and Rise of the Ronin to come. Does it feel like Japanese devs are becoming increasingly dominant this generation? If you look at the releases from Software, Square Enix, Capcom, and Namco, it seems like they're constantly supplying a steady stream of titillating titles for us to gobble up. I see what you did there, Nikki. You got to stop, man. See, that's smart. This is good writing.
You know what you're doing.
Meanwhile, Western devs seem to be struggling to get anything out. Since dev budgets and development time are a major talking point, can the West learn anything from Japan, particularly in the terms of lack of bloat? Cheers, cuties. Nick. Thank you, Nick, for writing in. We appreciate you and your weird write-ins. Because he forces my hand. It's like you see the intro and you're like, what the fuck is that? And then you see the question, you're like, yeah, that's a great question. Like, let's talk. Mm-hmm. He's just forever going to have me in a bind as I continue to write this show. So Cog, you and I have been big on this Japanese grind, it seems, really enjoying a lot of Japanese developed games. Do you share the sentiment that the Western side of the industry has maybe fallen behind a little bit?
This is a good one. I like this. I got to think about this. I don't want to make too definitive statement. I'm just going to talk about how I feel right now.
Sure.
I think Nikki V might be on to something. I feel like, look, we talked about Yakuza, and we talked about this is a franchise that, man, if you played it, it's just beloved, but it always felt like a cult thing, like a cult following. Sure. And now, like a Dragon, obviously the champion of Dragon of Yokohama, Ichiban, the true hero of the series, to take it turn-based and now
continue,
make it popular.
Sir.
I'm just saying, this is just waxing. So, I just think like now they're like, oh, you love us? You like this? Like we didn't think. Again, I even harken back, even though this is not Xbox related. I harken back to Ghost of Tsushima. I remember hearing Insomniac be like, "Wow, we didn't know if that would hit over there and these themes." And it's just this surprise, kind of thing. And now with Tekken, bro, they are going all out on market. Like Tekken is going hard body karate out here. Like it is serious. So you're seeing it everywhere. You're seeing the push from both of these teams. So I think they realize these franchises can be way bigger than what they are. They're potentially starting to see some data, some analytics to say, yo, we've got to promote over, these Eastern style games to the West. They're eating it up. To the overall question, I mean, Elden Ring was outside, right? From like, I don't know. I do. Maybe I'm wrong, but if I had to, my gut feels like if we lined up all the critically acclaimed games, of the highest tier, maybe that they're up there. They're right there. Maybe it's closer than we think. So, yeah, I don't get me wrong. I don't think the West is out of here. Don't get me wrong. There's still a lot of quality stuff here, but the East is making a mark. Yeah, when the East is in the house, they doing their thing. They doing their thing. So, what do you think? Do you think the Japanese developers now have kind of? I mean, then we had Tango, right? Hi-Fi was.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying. Maybe I'm thinking. Help me out here. Like, do you think they've got the lead? You think they own it, or you think
it's evened out? Is what I think has happened.
Yeah.
I think Western games are still as relevant and popular as ever. But I think what's happened is what used to feel like, as you mentioned with Yakuza, is a perfect example. Like this kind of secret thing is now popular, and I think if I were to wager a guess, what's led to that, I think it's because it's no longer the next graphical leap, like we've seen with generation to generation. It's about like the next idea. And now people are starting to explore art style more, which used to be a turnoff, where I think now it's a very attractive selling point. And while some of these games like Tekken is Unreal Engine 5, like one of the most beautiful looking games you can play, Elden Ring certainly is not like this anime stylish game. It has phenomenal presentation that's more akin to, I'd say, the Western style, like 3D, high fidelity, all that stuff. But you look at like the character design in Rebirth or Dragon's Dogma, the ridiculousness of that, the ridiculousness of Yakuza. It's about your ideas now. It's about your fun factor. And because the industry, I think, is becoming more like established, would be the best word. People are finding the things they like. And I was talking earlier about how games such as Triangle Strategy and Octopath and Live Alive have like found ways to do really well. Sea of Stars is the most recent example of that. Chained Echoes did really well. These games are finding success because as the industry grows, people are finding just what they like and looking for the next thing of that. And so with the Japanese devs pouring it on, like Trails games come out every year. If you like Trails, you're getting it every year. And that's it, right? So their output is insane because their work culture is insane. Not saying it's good, but it's insane. And they're making some of the more imaginative stuff. I think there's a magic over there. I personally, look, if you look at my channel's history, I'm speaking for myself here, not everyone, but like when you look at my channel's history, like, I typically am of the Western game focus ilk. In fact, I know this because when I was trying to like branch out and stuff, I was talking to Laylee about it. She was like, you're definitely like into the AAA stuff. She's like, you don't play indies. And I'm like, I was about to stop her and be like, no, I definitely do. I was like, fuck, I don't. And as the years have gone on, I've played way more indies. I've played way more Japanese style games, just naturally, naturally, because of pure interest in like what these ideas are that these games have. Apologies for my dogs. But like, they agree clearly.
They clearly
it's my version of the cops, right? Cops, I have the cops. I have the dogs.
Facts.
So yeah, man, like that's where I stand on it. I feel like Japan is exploring these fun ideas more than really anyone else is right now.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I think that we are starting to see some really cool ideas, and just the way they approach game development is different, right? So it feels fresh sometimes. It feels unique when we're starting to see that kind of stuff. So yeah, I agree. I think they're cooking on a lot of levels.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and I got to timestamp all of this. It's time for us to transition into the news.
Yeah, let's do it.
Number one's for our news. Hellblade 2, which was recently shown off at the Xbox Developer Direct at the top of the year, has more details. Important details coming straight from Ninja Theory, might I add. No reports, no rumors here. It's been confirmed that Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga will be a digital-only title, priced at $50, and is a similar length to the first game in the series. Now, much like what happened with Avowed COG, we have a ton of write-ins about Hellblade 2 being digital only, being priced at $50, expectations versus reality, and it's similar length. Tefo writes in, "Hi Dukes, I was really upset to learn that Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice will not have a physical release. Do you think Xbox is alienating some of its customers by not releasing games on physical media or by requiring downloads, Starfield and Halo Infinite? for disc-based single-player content. As a physical collector, I almost never buy games on Xbox anymore, and I do not use Game Pass. I am probably in the minority, but thought I would ask your opinion on this, hoping that Hellblade will get a later physical release like Psychonauts. Please keep doing what you do. I love the energy of the Dukes and look forward to it every week. Thank you, Tefo. We appreciate
Salute, Tefo. Salute.
Meanwhile, again, I just want to cover the ground here. Dan Cat, the man cat, like that name, writes, "Sup, boys? While I have no problem with Hellblade's length and think it sounds like the right decision, I wanted to ask the Dukes if the standing of Ninja Theory has changed in your minds. On this show, there has been talks, and by that, it's me. I will own it. Of Ninja Theory becoming Xbox. Oh, dude. Dude. Hold talk. Becoming Xbox's Naughty Dog or just one studio. While the short length might be the totally right call and could be an amazing game, does this confirm that for now, Ninja Theory is not batting in Naughty Dog's league? Have a hope there, and there are not any new voices in my head. Kinda. Hey, thank you for writing in, Dan Cat, the man cat.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about the length in a moment because I do have another writing. Okay. I just didn't want to pound 3 away here.
Yeah, go for it.
I would like to just kind of do this in order, if you don't mind, just for
please.
what I want to tackle what Dan Cat said first, personally. Then we'll go into the physical side of things with Tefo, and then I got to write in for the length of the game. So
no doubt.
We'll have a little more structure to this one because there's a lot to unpack here. So I'll take ownership, of course, for what I said. I don't want COG to get dragged into that because I have been saying for a while that I do believe Ninja Theory would be Xbox's Naughty Dog style studio. And by that, I just want to clarify for people. What I meant when I said that was I think they are the perfectionist, obsessive style developers that will get every piece of the details right, much like I think Naughty Dog does, and craft really tough to forget experiences where Naughty Dog has countlessly left me with things that just have stuck with me. And I thought Ninja Theory was going to create that. Many people thought that meant Ninja Theory is Naughty Dog. They're going to make the next Last of Us and the next Uncharted, and you're going to fucking like it. But
better than Neil Druckmann.
Yeah, right. Like I'm not saying it to defend myself because don't worry, I'll take my knee in a moment here. But what I'm saying is that I never said that. And anyone who claims I said that has mischaracterized me, which shouldn't be surprising to anyone who listens to this show. But nonetheless, what I will say is this. Part of this is on me. Part of this I do think is on how it was marketed. And I'll talk about that now. So on me, I put the expectations in my head. Those expectations were created from what we saw visibly as well as audio-wise, which we already knew Ninja Theory's got audio on lock pretty much. And we felt that again in the developer direct. Visibly, I mean, when we first saw that, we both agreed during the Game Awards, we're like, this is one of the best games we've ever seen. Like, look visually, sorry. And I still think it is one of the, if not the best looking game. There was an obsessive level of focus on this game. And the reason my expectations are rising is Ninja Theory's been working on this game, we thought, for like 7 years. And this felt like, out of all the games, the one to keep your eye on as an Xbox fan, because it was revealed alongside the Series X. So my expectations were crafted off of, I think, very fair things that I think anyone could have gleaned from what we were seeing. And also, we saw a massive amount of this game, right? And I say it like that now because we'll talk about the length in a moment. But Hellblade 1 took me about 6 hours to get through. I think 7 if you want to platinum it like I did. Not a long game at all. It's your Call of Duty campaign, if you will, length. Not the worst thing in the world, but definitely on the shorter end of the spectrum. I went from going, oh, we've barely seen anything on Hellblade because they showed it to us 4 times now, to holy shit, we've seen a lot of this game in a week span. That's quite the whiplash, right? And that does change my expectations of the title. Not like I'm reeling it in. I still think they can shoot for a Naughty Dog level quality, just like I've talked about with Asobo and Plague Tale. It was not a one-for-one exclusive conversation, although I did draw the parallel there consistently. I own that. But Plague Tale Requiem, Plague Tale Innocence, like those were Naughty Dog style games. And maybe I should have used those words better, but I still think the Naughty Dog style experience is a definitive statement that many developers are reaching for. And I think Hellblade with Ninja Theory was kind of reaching for that too, personally. So my expectations have shifted. I think they can still deliver the Naughty Dog style experience, but I now was like things where we were like, where's the combat? And even in the developer direct, I'm like, we didn't really see much combat. I'm like, how much combat is there if like this is such a tight experience and you've not shown me really much of like the beat for beat action? Like, if there's one thing I feel the developer direct outside of Aura and Indie failed to show, and really Mana also showed it.
Mm-hmm.
What am I playing? Where's the UI?
Fair.
What am I playing? What am I as the player going to see? Not your sizzle reel, no UI type shit. What am I playing? If there's one thing that they can improve, it's that, because now I can see with the benefit of hindsight, I didn't really know what I was going to be playing. I was assuming what I was going to be playing, which is on me. That's why I say it's where I take the L. It's where I bend the knee. But I still think that even if the short length is there, they can, just like Plague Tale Requiem was a 20-hour game. That was a much bigger experience. Innocence was like a nice, tight 9, maybe 10-hour experience in and out, and it was fantastic. And I think that Hellblade 2, especially if it's anything like the first game, can 100% deliver that. But the expectations have shifted dramatically for me in the terms of, I went from going, what it felt like, Cog? A God of War style evolution to me.
Like
as
soft.
in, oh God, I'm pulling from another PlayStation IP. I apologize. But when you look at what God of War was, like, God of War 3 is phenomenal. It's probably my favorite in the series. But God of War 3 was like this bombastic romp, 7 hours maybe, just a boss gauntlet, insane production values, and then it's over, right? Then God of War on PS4 rolls around eventually, and it's this overhaul. Slow, methodical, take it all in, much bigger in scale, much bigger in scope, side content in a God of War game, like crazy to think about. That's what I was thinking. Like Hellblade 1 was this tight $20 game, right? 6 hours long, beautiful indie title. Now you've got the budget of Xbox behind you. You're announced next to the Series X, which is like a huge deal. I'm never going to understate that. That's a big deal. Like,
that's a huge deal.
This is the game that's standing head and shoulders next to our new console. That's a statement game, and it has to be delivered as one, even if it's not there at the beginning of the generation.
That's fair.
So yeah, to go from that, which I think was a fair expectation to have, to be like what they said in their Xbox Wire post, we're having an independent AAA spirit to our games. Might have wanted to say that first. I really think it would have benefited you. And naturally, the question much of our audience is writing in about is right here from Mr. Scott, if you're nasty. Sir Dukes, I have absolutely no issue with the length of the next Hellblade. I also have no doubt the story and graphics will be absolutely top notch. What gets me scratching my head is the time it took to make an 8-ish hour game with no multiplayer. Ninja Theory is approximately 120 people, and they last released Hellblade in August 2017. It is just 7 years. It is just shy of 7 years old. Is that an acceptable time frame to develop an 8-hour single-player game? In my opinion, this pace is too slow, like George R.R. Martin slow. Have a what the hell is Palworld kind of day. We'll talk about that next.
Oh, yeah.
So one thing people are forgetting is Ninja Theory did do Bleeding Edge, right? And that is being forgotten often. And it's not a great game. It's not their best game. It's not the one anyone talks about, but it came out like, 2019, I think?
Yeah, I interviewed the developer for that game, and that was my only Ninja Theory interview was them.
There you go.
Lunch. Yep.
There you go. So there was something in between. And so then you shorten that from 7 to 5, right? Because around that time, we got the reveal of the Series X. Hellblade 2 was starting development. Mm-hmm. I remember I had it as a prediction last year, and we learned that earlier in that year, like it hit like pre-alpha.
Yeah.
So it had a ways to go. And I was like, then we had that conversation, like, what the fuck is going on then? Like, wasn't this be further along? In between then and now, we've also learned they've greenlit another secret project and Project Mara.
Project Mara and another secret, yep. Mm-hmm.
And so I think what's happened is when they got Bleeding Edge out the door, there was, my guess would be, there was this kind of team meeting of, okay, we're not multiplayer. We had fun making a Hellblade style experience. What is our studio going to be? And much like we talked about Obsidian's, why I put them in the front of the show, Obsidian says, like, we're making this AA style game. We love the AA style development. You look at Pentiment, you look at Grounded. Like, I think they're going to continue. We'll see how the Outer Worlds 2 shakes out, but like, I think they're going to continue to make AA style games because that's always what they're built for and what they want to make. And it seems like what Ninja Theory wants to make are, quote, independent style AAA games, as in short, bite-size, memorable, very creatively driven, which is awesome, by the way. There is nothing wrong with that, but I just think this all should have been communicated sooner, because what this is actually I'm doing here is piecing together a timeline myself
based on what you've said here individually with Hellblade 2 versus everything that's transpired since then. And if I'm just putting this all together now, and I was like your ride or die right now, I imagine many other people are not. Mm-hmm. And while this game looks phenomenal, and I think it will, I still have not lost confidence. This will be an amazing game. I feel confident in that. But there needs to be better. This goes back to what I said about communication, right? And I'm not saying this because I'm taking the L, but definitely. Not that you had to unveil the length, but the studio mantra, the studio goals. Yeah. When you're greenlighting all these projects. So Xbox, why are we announcing Hellblade 2 if it's going to be this independent style game? That's cool, but we know you need a blockbuster next to your Halo, right? So when you're going to reveal your console. So I don't want to spin my wheels too much. I know I've been going on. I apologize. I've been dominating some of the conversation.
You're good.
But I just wanted to put it all into perspective for the audience that Ninja Theory definitely, I think, presented different expectations from what we're actually going to get. And it's good that the Xbox community has grappled that well, because I don't think, as my concluding point here, Cog, this being an 8-hour game is bad at all. No, I think it's great. I think it's welcome. I think people want this. And I think Ninja Theory is going to thrive because of it. Because people will make time because they know they can bang this out in a weekend. Just like Hi-Fi Rush got a ton of play. I think this is going to get a ton of play. No doubt in my mind. Because of that length. And Xbox is smart for this approach. Because you can't, if people are asking, like, how are they maintaining Game Pass? How is this sustainable? My guess is because of the way they're funding these projects. Independent AAA, AA games. They're maybe not always pushing for the PlayStation AAA blockbuster. Although this Hellblade looks just like one of them. But maybe because the AAA blockbusters from PlayStation last a lot longer, maybe that's the offset. My guess is they're trying to build games cheaper. As we've talked about earlier in the show with the layoffs and stuff, they may have anticipated something. They may have organized things this way. I don't know, but I've gone on. And I don't know if any of it's really made sense or felt cohesive, but I wanted to make sure I took my L, bent my knee, made sure people understood where I stand now, which is I still expect a Naughty Dog style experience. And that I think Hellblade 2 will still be great. I'm cool with the length, but I think we need to communicate in the future, beyond Ninja Theory. You get a new studio. What is the studio vision? What is not, you got to give me game for game, bar for bar, but like, are you making big games? Are you making small games? That's it. That's it. That's fair. And we just live on that word.
No, that's fair. I think, look, listen, my stance has always been, as a person who loves the first Hellblade, that the length of the game, I was perfectly fine with the first one. And to me, it's one of those things that I've always looked at Hellblade as low-key a horror game. Like I've always looked at it as a game that makes you truly uncomfortable. The psychosis and hearing of her voices, and in situations where it really challenges you to continue. I know people who cannot play the game. The audio is too intense. I know people like, I want to play it, but man, it freaks me out. Like it is that level. But back to the main point, with what you said, even though I am of that mindset, I am fair to someone who says, look, I think it's okay to be disappointed if proper expectation wasn't set early. So when, like, to your point, when you see it and you see it alongside the Series X, you go, oh, okay. This is the graphic.
Not accounting for the 4 trailers that were shown.
Absolutely. And each subsequent showing, we've never heard of this. Oh, it's going to be a shorter experience. This is our vision. This is our theory. See, I think the reason why there is some blowback, which I think is justified, in the sense that it's like, okay, now you're about to release, and now we find out what your vision is. So it feels like, I get the sense of like, oh, like me and Soft had a, I was ready to go at this man. Like I was really ready to go at my brother, because he's of the mindset like, bro, which is fair. He was like, Cog, I thought this was going to be, bigger, expansive, open world, maybe. If not open world, then maybe like really in depth. And his thought process after the direct with Hellblade was like, I'm getting more of the same. And I'm thinking the scope is smaller. So I was pushing back with him a little bit, but as far as budget and making it a better Hellblade, so to speak, but I understood what you're saying. But then he came back the next week when I'm really ready to fight. I was like, I want to see if you really played the first one. I want to know what you truly know what Hellblade is. I know everything about this game. Like I was ready for. I'm ready to come get this boy. So he like, nah, Cog, I got to take back what I said. My expectation was too high based on what now what's being said it is. So it's his. He took ownership of it. I was like, damn it, I was ready to go to war with you.
Isn't that the worst?
Yeah, so obviously, oh man, this guy's so smooth. He's so damn smooth. So yeah, like it was pretty much one of those situations. But to his defense, and to anybody who is disappointed in length of the game and stuff like that, I can understand that only because you're being hit with this information on the year it comes out. And again, to your point with Studio Vision, I think that's fair to some extent. Like, hey, what type of experiences does Ninja Theory want to make? What, Project Mara and all this other stuff, right? So you got that. Now let's get to the other thing, which is the $50 and the digital and the thing. So look, where I'm at with that, Corporate Cog was surprised also, only because I thought, y'all leaving money on the table. You put a physical edition out with collectors, something, you could really, really cake out, in my opinion. You could really make some hand over fist money, some statues, put the musical disc for the people who did the damn album and the thing. And you know what I'm saying? Like you could go all out. Right. And Cog is buying this up. What? No problem. So I was like, all right, man, they going. So part of me is like, is this a test bed for something? Right? With this digital thing. Is this a test bed with the $50? And this is how I equate $50. I'm going to be honest. I don't think that it means the quality of the game is less. What I feel is I look at it when they say $50, they come to that price point, they evaluate obviously length, replayability, and monetization. And I'm going to be 100% real with you. Hellblade is type of game, it is the epitome of I consider one and done. I am not going through all that again. Like they even said in Developer Direct, like we want to make it feel that every encounter, everything, she just barely scraped by. You just barely went through the most intense thing. And now you're giving me the physical effery and the mental effery on top, like with a high graphical, and they're showing detail that's insane. So I'm like, I can't wait to be when it's over. And I go, okay, whew, we did it. We survived. That kind of thing. But to this point, yeah, it is disappointing. I think it's fair to say it's disappointing that there's no physical collector's edition. I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say, that you could have packaged this with some type of early access like you did with Starfield. But what it shows me is they have made an evaluation. And if this is, the key is this a Ninja Theory thing only? Is this how Ninja Theory is set up, where they make these super quality, shorter experiences? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that what they are, right, kind of thing? Or is this a one-off? Or is this something that Xbox is going to do in the future? What I don't think Avowed would do something like, you know what I mean? Not that it's a bad thing.
No, it's hard to tell because you think about the statement they put at the top of last year, like, hey, or end of last year, like, hey, we're going to $70 games now. It's like, okay, everything moving forward is going to be 70. And then you get Redfall at 70 versus as the first major $70 game. And then you get Starfield, like that's a different type of 70. Right. Okay, cool. And then Forza is like, okay, that's a reasonable 70. And now we're hearing Hellblade's 50. I like that they're, by the way, going up and down the price spectrum. And it should be that way. But they set these expectations. Like when I saw, everything's to be $70, I'm sure at some point in those conversations, if anyone listens to those old episodes and Hellblade came up, we're like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Game. Like, yeah, of course. Like, it's beautiful. It's a big sell. It's gonna be the console mover. Like, that's how we were thinking.
Yeah.
Because it was announced alongside it, and it had that kind of that just one quality, right?
It did. It literally qualifies everything for just one, minus the fact that it's a sequel to an existing Hellblade. Everything else qualifies as just one.
Yeah. So I can't sit here and pretend, as excited as I am, I can't pretend that didn't dramatically rattle the expectations I have for the game. I still expect greatness. Absolutely.
Of course.
But I don't expect this seismic game anymore. And I don't know if I can even say I expect this to be a console mover anymore.
Wow.
Not putting it on store shelves like you put Starfield on store shelves. We'll talk about why that may be the case, as they might be dialing down that part of the initiative. But
no, that's where you're at.
I'm losing the words now.
Nah, bro, that's where you're at. I mean, look, it's going to be interesting to see if it reviews well, how does that affect with this particular strategy? How does that, the no, physical and the no early or whatever? We still don't know 100%, but no, I think that's fair. It is interesting. I will say this. Final point. Now, I want to be fair now. Ain't nobody sitting there saying $50 is a bad thing. Like from the consumer perspective.
Yeah, that's why no one's complaining.
Bro, I wanted to pay $70. What the hell they doing? Like, we're not doing that. Like, I'm with King on that part. I think King is of that mindset. So I will say that. But it is, I think it's just one of those things like, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's worth monitoring. I think it's worth saying, let's see how the other releases go. And again, not that it's a bad thing. It's just, is this a direction shift?
Yeah.
How do we go with Xbox first party studios? Or is this just the way of Ninja Theory? And we're respecting them. We're giving them more budget to do these shorter, rich, high quality, high fidelity, narrative driven experiences, but they're of this pocket. And that's what we're helping them do. That's what they want to do. That's what we're as Xbox want. Is that division? We don't know, right? We don't necessarily know. At that last point, I just remember something. I thought it was interesting. The very thing that Direct started and the studio head was like, yeah, because we need to make a smaller experience. And I was like, whoa, that's why I hit hard. We're like, wait a minute, we didn't know this. What's this? See,
it hit different when they heard that.
Part of them, is to blame. But not whether you want to say Ninja Theory or Xbox. We didn't know this until the year you're about to come out and give a release date. I think it is fair for people to feel a little bit of a way. But I'm going to be there on May. We're going to see.
Yeah, and that's the end result, right? Yeah. Is I don't think this is going to drive anyone away. It may drive people toward it, but it may shift what they were expecting, which is where I'm at. I don't want people to think I'm dooming this game now. I'll emphasize again, I think Hellblade 2, I expect greatness from. I agree with what Colin said. That I feel like they might be tucking away the combat a bit. Mm-hmm. And that does worry me because I always think of that DMC game they made. I'm like, that's some of the best action combat I've experienced in a game. Like, I love the Angel Devil system of pulling enemies to you and pulling yourself to them. Like, it's really good shit. Mm-hmm. They did Heavenly Blade, I believe. Like, they've done really good action games. Yeah. And so I don't expect Hellblade. Like they said, we don't want Senua to be a superhero. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Give her more than just one attack button. Right.
Stay on the cut and see more as opposed to the quick shift. I know. Listen, that's fair. That's fair criticism.
So we'll see. But Hellblade is digital only, $50, similar length to Hellblade 1. I want to go back to Tefo's write-in. So you kind of addressed these middle two. We do have a fourth write-in we'll talk about. But Tefo was asking about physical media. And they said, do they think Xbox is alienating some of its customers by not releasing games on physical media or by requiring downloads like Starfield and Halo Infinite for disc-based single-player content? And there was another write-in, I apologize I didn't use it, but it mentioned how is Xbox maybe going the route of Psychonauts 2, where it's like, here's the digital product, and then for the collectors out there, like pretty much getting the double dip in this really weird way where they like, okay, we'll print X amount of copies, and here now you can get Psychonauts 2 physically. Do you think that's the route here? Because I wonder if this may also be, if I were to overanalyze things, and I'll kick it to you, I wonder if this is the Starfield effect. Starfield drove a ton of subscriptions to Xbox and Game Pass, and we never heard about. We monitored console sales that seemed to increase a lot with Starfield, and I imagine it was because of Starfield. But Xbox never came out and was like, yeah, we sold 1 million Series X's because of Starfield. Like, they were like, no, we had the single most subscriptions ever in our service due to Starfield, which is a huge compliment to that game and being able to move that many people into the service. So is Hellblade like, oh, this is what we're going to do now? Like, when we can go digital only, we're going to, because we were going to drive more people. Because then think about the price proposition. It has never been more apparent than right then and there. It's different when I'm a collector. It's like, I'll spend $70 and go get the physical copy because I want that. And I will not spend $15 a month on your service. But now you've forced me into your digital world. I'm here now and I'm looking at the storefront. $50 or 15? $50 or 15? And at that price point, I'm like, well, I'm playing digitally anyway. I'm going to go get Game Pass.
Right.
And I wonder if that is the Starfield effect. At the same time, I don't think suddenly Avowed is going to be digital only, but you never know. And also, like, I wonder about Avowed's price proposition as well. Is that going to be a $60 game because you said it's AA style versus the AAA indie style is 50? Right. Like,
Those are good questions.
I'm just curious how they're going to exercise this pricing spectrum. But what do you make of Xbox's continuing to move away from physical games and requiring downloads for a lot of single player content?
I think if I had to guess, Xbox proper, like Xbox Game Studios, may be shifting this direction. If I had to guess, Bethesda, when I look at Starfield, or maybe they're like, obviously big Constellation Edition. I think they're allowed to stay true to their core, what they are. Xbox, the vibe I get as we've moved farther into the acquisition transition period, and now their mainstays, is that Xbox seems to allow you to do what you want to do and maintain your culture. It's just obvious. Like, we can't deny that they haven't really been meddling. You know what I'm saying? Like, they literally like, yo, you're going to do what you want to do. But to this point, Tefo, man, I feel your pain, but this is what I think this is. If I had to guess, it's hard, cold data. And the analytics may just show, bro, like, people are buying Alan Wake 2 digital with no physical release. And nobody had a problem, so to speak. I'm just making up, digital only releases. Like, maybe they have the data that's like, yo, we're not. And let's just keep it 100%.
Baldur's Gate 3 is another example when you think about it.
That came up late. But everyone's game of the year, selling. No one. So, like, this is really feel like I'm coming for you, and I like.
No, I've slowly turned the page.
Yeah, it's like they looking at y'all like y'all the Walkman dudes, y'all the cassette tape guy. Like, they like, bro, y'all. It's cute that you want this, but we got the data that says y'all don't do this. You know,
and it's money. I got to be honest. If they're doing an indie style initiative at Ninja Theory. The rationale behind that is like, look, the reason a lot of these companies, like, you look at, I'm not going to get up and grab them now, but like, if you look at physical copies, I have one next to me.
Yeah.
Like, you look at how they once were, right? Like, you had the manuals on the inside, the inserts, the slips, the illustrations, right? The inking prices, like all that, a lot of money, right?
Absolutely.
Just print the box, a lot of money. And the art on the box, a lot of money, right?
Facts.
Then we go here, like, this is a PS5 copy of Temtem. You crack it on open, and like, you get maybe one slip, and that's really it, right? Most times, I mean, this one actually has reverse cover art I'm seeing now. Yeah. But most times it's like, here's your seizure warnings, here's like your health warnings and all health advisories that are on the inside of the box. Like, as time has gone on, they've consolidated more and more what is required within a physical copy of a game, where it's nothing more than just the disc and a box. And eventually they want to do away with it entirely. Like, if anyone wants a really good example, go to Retro Rebound, look up my Remembering the Indiana Jones video games video. It's there. I talk about Emperor's Tomb, which has one of the best complete in box I have ever seen. Like, it's a beautiful manual that looks like Indy's journal. It's got like tons of lore in it. It's really fucking cool. When you look at that versus the copy I just showed you of Temtem, or really any modern game you could pull off your shelf, you'll see how they've just been axing this thing down in costs. And the reason they've been doing that is because when you print a ton of copies, it's why, like, Limited Run, as much as I can't stand their way of doing business, like, Limited Run will take your pre-orders first, and then they'll close the window. They'll be like, okay, we only have to, we took in at $40, $50, $60 a pop, this much. Okay, now we have to print 40,000 of these,
right?
Versus them overprinting and then spending more money than they actually needed to. And so that's why we're seeing more and more games come out digitally, and then the people who love the game get it physically after they've already played it, because it's that attachment that games create. So it's savvy business stuff, but it's also, I think, cutting costs. Like, if they're doing this indie style initiative, they're like, well, we don't want to mess with like physical stuff because we want as much money for the budget development wise as we can. I'm just theorizing this whole time because we really didn't get much rationale. They're like, this is just what we're doing. But
yeah, no, I agree. I think that's what's happening here, and I think that again, the production costs. Then you're talking about retailers and shelf space, and they're looking at it like, bro, we can get all of that revenue and eliminate this other stuff. And these guys are willing to buy. We have the analytics. We show the trends. So look, on one side, look, I'm sad that I would have I want to put a Sentinel thing here. I would have easily bought that, and I still hope they do like a Psychonauts thing where it still comes. Like I feel like it's a great celebration of the game, you know, to do that kind of stuff, and it brings that brand attachment, and I don't want them to go all the way like that, but it is trending, and I can't ignore it. I can't ignore that this is how I think they're moving. So for some, this is going to be upsetting. For the majority, people are like, "Hey, I get to download it here, and it's only $50, and you know, whatever." So, but yeah, I think that's what it is. If I had to guess.
Well, that's enough about Hellblade 2. We're still excited. We'll still monitor it with this new information in mind, and we'll see how it ends up releasing. And naturally, we'll review it here on Defining Duke, so you can hear our thoughts then.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about Palworld. This has kind of turned into a way bigger success than any of us imagined. Actually, I was listening back to one of our older episodes, and like we went over Palworld going day one Game Pass. We're like, oh, that's great. Yeah. Like good pick. Like this could be fun. Makes sense though. Like maybe they feel it's like kind of risky. Oh, it's early access. Yeah, like of course. And since this is such a to the minute record breaker, I'm gonna check real quick to make sure my script isn't out of date.
I'm the same thing. You got to refresh their page all the time because it's new. It's new. There we go.
7 million copies in 5 days. So my script was already out of date.
Wow.
7 million copies in 5 days. I think they were closing in on 2 million concurrent on Steam, which is fucking crazy. This is probably the biggest game to hit Game Pass. In the terms of third party,
number one on PC Game Pass already.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it definitely eclipsing, I imagine, High on Life, which was originally the biggest third party one, which also had its kind of takeover moment. But this is on a whole other level. And so this pertains to a lot of things with Xbox. There's been naturally the Game Pass impact people want us to discuss. Early access, we could talk about that. It cost 1 billion yen to make versus what they're getting now, which is just like money hand over fist. There's conversations on the ethics surrounding this game and how it was made, where you see similarities in Pokemon designs, AI generated creatures potentially. That those are just allegations, might I add. There's a lot of misinformation surrounding this game, but there's a lot of like where there's smoke, there's fire in the terms of like the creature designs being pretty close. So there's a lot of ways to go about this. I'll get into some of the write-ins in a little bit here, but Cog, have you played Palworld? And if so, what are your thoughts on what's going on with this game right now? Because it's a tremendous success, and naturally I'm sure Xbox is very happy to have this in their ecosystem exclusively.
Oh, easily. Yeah, a couple hours in, not crazy. I'll get into what happened by experience a little bit later. But as far as, you know, about this game, me and I talk about it daily. It is, wow, no one saw this coming. And it's one of those things where I sit there and I go, I was having a conversation, a couple friends of mine, and I remember the discussion at the Direct was like, all right, Hellblade, we got the release date. A lot of people are hyped about that, but a lot of people are like, hey, what do we got to play between now and then? And I'm like, I remember saying like, we gonna act like Game Pass don't exist. We gonna act like there's not a ton of things going on. I know my backlog ain't finished on top of that, right? So now here comes something like Palworld that is completely destroying every metric going. And to me, what it tells me is that there is a huge desire for what I consider the Pokemon fan base for Nintendo to iterate and change up their formula. And oh, by the way, we got a little mature vibe on certain things. We're doing extra things and we're a little survival. So you got that. You know, it is the craving for it. It's really insane to me. And then overall, people are enjoying it. Now, it is interesting, the discourse, because there is pushback. You know, obviously, there are people who are like, yo, you know, we have to monitor it. There's allegations, you know what I'm saying, as far as the AI stuff. But to me, the more thing is the real thing that I think is the real issue is the Pokemon similarities to these characters. And Attic showed me a side by side of here's this one and here's that one. And I'm like, I know this Anubis look real close. Oh, this look, oh boy. Oh yeah, this looking a little spooky, y'all. Y'all look like somebody copied their homework on a couple of things, making it a little small. And it's on creatures, on creatures, just to be clear. Now, from the legal standpoint, spoke to Hogue. Hogue's like, look, they ain't gonna be, Nintendo ain't gonna be able to do nothing. And I'm like, really? I thought that, not that he couldn't do that. He just said, let me take that back. He's like, anyone can sue. But the mindset is that, how far are you willing to go? Will you be able to prove this? Because here's the problem. It's not like it's a Pokemon thing 1-to-1 like that game Temtem. There was a game called Temtem I heard that's really, really biting the style. Like they really going for it. But this is, you remember, you've got survival aspects. You got a little monster, hunter aspects. There's all these different things that has core gameplay elements that really Pokemon don't have outside of the creatures and throwing a ball and catching something, what I'm saying, from what I'm told. So I think they're fine in that regard. As far as this discourse, about it, as far as any negative discourse, the only thing I would say that I think is fair, obviously the Xbox version of it isn't being inferior. That needs to get cleaned up. Obviously, we did get a roadmap recently, I think today or yesterday, that was really impressive. That they see I will say, I do like the communication from this team on their social media account. I do feel that, they're like, hey, we recognize there's this issue, a lot of this overload, or hey, we've been complaining about Starfield. Like they was like, boom, 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 boom. We getting PvP, we getting raids, we getting this, we getting that.
People thought I was crazy for asking for more with Starfield, man.
I remember you took some arrows for that. You took some arrows. You took a lot of arrows for that. Palworld just came out and they were like, boom, this is what we thinking about doing. Right.
I have it here.
Yeah.
Addressing critical issues. They say currently numerous bugs have been identified. We're prioritizing fixing those. Sometimes the world date may experience rollbacks and the loading screens may persist when trying to load into worlds and so on. Improvements to implement ASAP key configurations, improvements to base PAL AI and pathing.
Right.
Plan future updates, PvP, raid bosses, PAL Arena, which is PvP for PALs, Steam Xbox crossplay, various Xbox feature improvements, server transfer and migrations, improvements to the base to the building system, new islands, PALs, bosses, and technology. Sorry, continue.
No, you're good. You're good. Thank you. No, that's a perfect pickup because it's like, I love to see that kind of stuff. So that's exciting me. And look, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is, again, shout out to Xbox's talent acquisition, whoever was the one that saw this game and said, we need to put this in preview Game Pass. They may be on to something right now. And right now, this is at the way this game is blowing up, to me, I mean, we got to be real, Maddie. Like, this is like Fortnite just came out energy. Yeah. Minecraft just came out energy. PUBG just came out energy. Like this is the records it's shattering is unheard of. And you already have the relationship. Again, not saying you have to acquire them, but maybe you help them with support on certain things. Maybe you make it a thing where it's associated with your platform a little bit more. Look, I'm of the mind belief that live service should go everywhere. So I'm not opposed to, if it came out a game preview and then, okay, now it's available on PlayStation or something like that. Maybe that was in the contract already. I don't know. But you best believe Microsoft's teams are monitoring this situation. And from what I was told, I think Addict told me that every game that they've made prior has been only on Xbox and PC. So that's interesting. It'll be interesting. Look, all I would say is this. The game is a phenomenon right now. We'll see if it maintains that pace and continues on, if they do anything long-term that will affect that. And as far as, anybody who have a distaste for it, the people have spoken. There is a desire for this game from a fun level, from a whatever is keeping people in. They are in this and the active users justify it. So that's where I'm at with it.
We have this write-in here from Upright Aura, which sets the table pretty well. Hey, Dukes, this is probably the first of many write-ins about Palworld and its rapid success. Also a game surrounded by controversy from claims of artistic plagiarism and now the dreaded words of AI. However, the numbers don't lie and the game scratches a particular itch. With all that being said, how should Xbox treat the situation? Should they go all in like Minecraft or keep the current Game Pass relationship while staying distant? I also should note the current console version isn't up to par with PC and does need work. Thanks for reading. Thank you for writing in. Upright Aura. Yeah, it's been the main complaints around the game is that the Xbox version is like a few versions behind what's on PC. So, Cog.
Yo.
obviously this is a big deal for Xbox that they've kind of found themselves in, whether they identified it. And I don't think anyone could have expected it being this big. Even, Xbox taking a look at it, adding it to their portfolio. Now knowing this though, is this kind of like what we were saying with High on Life? Like, let's firm this shit up. Like whatever you're working on next, we want in on that. We want to keep this going because now you get to put on the marketing for everything, the next game from the creators of Palworld.
Yeah.
Right. Which is now a top 3 or arguably the top most played game ever on Steam.
Yeah.
Like this is not a small success, not just monetarily. This is a massive success historically speaking. And that is something Xbox cannot afford to let go. This is the type of stuff that they've been looking for in their ecosystem, right? Phil has talked about this.
Genshin Impact,
Rocket League, Genshin, like letting these things go. So if they have a say in it, or if they can support in some way, they would be wise to. If they can draw a connection to their platform, like I'm throwing out a stupid fucking example, Master Chief and Palworld. I don't know. If you can draw a connection, you should. Because this is your base for the most part. Steam, PC, Game Pass, and Xbox. You should be all fucking over this thing, man. Especially, I'm not trying to alienate a player base, but like, especially since their roadmap has no mention of ports right now.
Right, yeah.
This is your time. This is your time to really draw the connection to the world's current biggest game to your platform. And not just, I mean, if you want to go hands off, that's not bad either, but I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to say like, hey, what can we do to help? How can we help? How can we get involved more? Noting this huge success here. I find it hard to imagine they don't. In what capacity they do get involved, who knows? But buttering up that relationship, like, hey, let's help you get this roadmap a little bit further down the line. Like, I just think they'd be wise to from the business angle. What I wanted to talk about a little bit is what Upright Aura addressed at the top, which is from claims of artistic plagiarism to the dreaded words of AI. Now, AI is unproven. Like, this is something that they just saw the Mizobe, who's like the head of Pocket Pair, the developer of Palworld, chatting about his clear love for AI. They have a game called AI Art Imposter, which is clearly like a parody game on like AI taking art from other artists and how you identify it. Didn't review particularly well, but it definitely is one of those products that doesn't age well in light of the allegations being made against it. But right now, we have yet to see that Palworld has had any sort of AI usage. And according to Steam, you have to disclose that before putting it on the market and in what capacity that AI is used. So if they just sold 7 million copies, I mean, it's not like they'd be in a world of trouble, but like to my knowledge at least, but like if you sold 7 million copies and you didn't follow these Steam guidelines, like I don't know if that would be pretty good. Apparently all the creatures were made by a single person. And so I had a little bit of an interesting encounter with this topic here. Not only from like the player point of view, less with AI, but more of like artistic plagiarism. I feel like you see what Palworld's doing. That's generally like a big no-no, like a big turnoff. I made a video actually talking about the allegations and making sure like it was clear, like, hey, these are just allegations, and talking about the artistic approach to the game and how blatantly obvious it was that they looked at Pokemon and just slightly redesigned them. Whether it's true or not that they imported those assets from like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and then built off of those or not, who knows? But as you just have to have eyeballs to look at some of these creatures. It's even if you fucking love Palworld, it is so obvious that they looked at some of these creatures. Like, look at the one that looks like Decidueye. Look at the one that looks like Lucario. It's undeniable that they started off their concept process looking at Pokemon, which isn't a bad thing. This is the biggest creature catching IP on the planet. But there was a degree of homework copying, no doubt about it. What this has shown me, because when I put that video up, there was a lot of like, who gives a fuck energy. And I have to admit, I know no one's going to share my take on it, but I was a little surprised, really. Granted, that's just my sliver of the internet, but I think I've cultivated an audience that cares about a lot of the same shit I do. Did they always agree with me? Hell no. But I was really surprised how little of a fuck people gave about this. But you know what drove it was less about the plagiarism.
What was it? And
who was being plagiarized.
Ooh.
And that's what I noticed was the biggest fucking difference.
Interesting.
A lot of people are sick of what Pokemon has done.
That's what I was going to say.
And that's what you were getting at, man. Yeah. A lot of people, from what I can tell, are like, man, fuck Nintendo and fuck Pokemon too. You shipped us a broken game last time and made 10 million copies sold off of that in 3 days. So screw you. They can steal your homework for all we care. I think most times people will be like, what is this? Because I remember, for example, there was to use a Bethesda example, there was a mod that did some type of quest of robots, I think it was. And then Far Harbor had a very similar quest line, from my memory, to that mod. And people lost their fucking minds over that. They were like, are you kidding me, Bethesda? You steal from this community like that? And this has happened. I'm sure there are many other examples that I can't even recall right now. But because it's Nintendo and because of what they've done with Pokemon and how they've mistreated that franchise, people are gathering in mass to a game that's, by the way, I'm not talking mechanically, creature design wise, blatantly copied so many of its designs. And people don't give a fuck. And that was like a big, like, holy shit moment. And to learn about the legality of it, like when I first saw it, I was like, I imagine they have a case, but it's like, no, even if it's like the same proportions, similar coloring, similar animals, like it's still inspired by, I'm like, bro, this is on another level. Like, while I'm glad people are having fun, I'm like thinking to myself, okay, we're looking at a historic success that is copying homework. And what I think about precedents that sets, lacks a fuck given in certain key decisions in the development process. Again, a lot of people are going to take this as me trying to tear the game down, but like, I'm just trying to, as a pundit, take an honest critical look at the fucking impact that the biggest game of 2024 is going to have, which is people are going to look at, like, what if AI ends up being a big part of this whole thing? Right. Much like my audience share with me, who gives a fuck? The game is fun. And I have to tip my cap to Mr. New York Game Awards presenter here, who's really been beating that war drum. And I'm like, dude, like, we're moving in this direction that's kind of freaking me out, where we're not only are we quickly, minus Palworld, but we're quickly already starting to have those moments of like, is it AI? The problem is with Palworld is, let's say it did use AI and they didn't disclose it. The problem is no one can fucking tell. And so no one cares to find out because it's fun.
Right.
And that's the God's honest truth.
No,
and it's a little freaky. It's like, I've played it. I've had fun with it. And I have to admit, it's one of those things, kind of like the finals. Finals way less so.
Yeah.
But like finals was that kind of, it was the start of that feeling of like, I really love this game. This is so much fun. I'm still going back to the finals, but knowing like the AI voice work is there, I'm like, there's a lack of like a human spirit to this, but it kind of fits. Like the finals is this dehumanizing sort of game show, like shooting each other and whatnot. Okay. Then you play this and you're like, okay, the creative process was really there mechanically, but not artistically. Like, am I the problem? Am I obsessively artistic? Just, my game is super art driven.
From the heart. I know. I got
coming
you.
from the heart. I'm like, does people give a fuck about that anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still going to go in that direction because that's what I want to make. But it's like, you have that wake up call. You're like, hey, like, if it's fun, who cares? Is really the mindset people have. And I'm still kind of grappling with that thought process. I'm like, wow, like this. The game does so much more. And again, I'm not trying to discredit that. We'll talk about that in a moment. But
absolutely,
visually speaking, you see all the hallmarks. You see Breath of the Wild, you see Fortnite, and you see fucking Pokemon.
Yeah.
And it just leeches it all. And it's like, yep, biggest game.
Yeah.
And that's not strange because it's taking from popular things that have worked, but it's brilliant, frankly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been talking for a while. I've been heading into an existential crisis, it seems. But
he said an existential crisis. I'm done.
What do you make of this before we get into the mechanics of the game?
Listen, this is my prediction, and it's the cold, hard reality that I've always felt in my heart, and it's scary to me too, of course, because I'm an OG, I'm a hardcore gamer, but bro, we have to come to the reality that the hardcore gamer is literally sometimes the minority and an echo chamber. I hate to say it because the reality is this next generation of gamers, they don't care about that. They don't care about none of that. Look at the analytics. It's Fortnite. It's this. It's all this other stuff. And yeah, we'll get our bangers and we'll be like, yeah, this is how gaming's supposed to be. This is the true. And they'll get critical. Okay, we'll have exceptions to the rule. But to me, stuff like this, exemplifies that at least, even though it's not going 100%, it at least is shifting. We have to admit that. And I think that's what it is. I think at the end of the day, these kids are like, yo, is this fun? But to your overall point, I do think that this is, I will say this, if this was a franchise that was highly, if what is being emulated or inspired by was a franchise that's highly respected and treats their fans well, oh, you best believe this thing's going to get dragged. Mm. The problem is, I know it, like, it's because I used to do it. I'm guilty of it too. Like, I remember, shout out to my boy Kabox, we're fighting game connoisseurs. And like, when certain fighting games go into a different direction and we're like, bro, what are y'all doing? This is not it. And then your competitor goes in, a new competitor comes out and goes in another direction. Bro, that's literally why I left like Virtue Fighters for Tekken. I was just like, nah, I don't like where y'all going. It's too floaty. What's going on here? I want martial arts. I want this. Boom. And then Tekken kept on with it. So it's like the people are going to shift where they feel wrong. They feel like you've been getting over. And that's what this is, the biggest rebellious spirit to Nintendo. It shows you that people love Pokemon, but we do not like what y'all doing. And we're taking
time
on
to
this
experiment.
Exactly. Yeah. And to me, it also reminds me of poor PUBG to Fortnite. PUBG came out, they were the battle royale guy, military this. Fortnite said, oh, where are we? We can help you with your engine. We can help you. You okay, cool. Oh, by the way, our game is completely different base building, but now we got a battle royale, man. We're going to take what? Oh, yeah, did this? Oh, chicken did? Okay. Mm-hmm. Here's Fortnite. Here's the new version of what Fortnite is. And guess who now, the person, the originator, right, is now left behind. You don't even hear about PUBG. Remember when PUBG was a thing? Was that thing, so to speak? Not that it's completely dead, but that's what happens. That's what happens. So I think that's the situation here. And the last point I'll say, I don't know if we're going into it now, there's still more questions, was in if we leaving the character design stuff alone or whatever. But the last thing I'll say is, again, I'm with you on the character design. We know clearly the homework has been copied with some of these creature designs. It's clear as day. But where they are going to win, and I'm going to read Hoag's quote, because I think he nailed it. He says, anybody can sue for any reason. So I can't tell you what Nintendo will or won't do about Palworld. I can tell you, however, they'd have a tough time winning on any infringement claim that isn't arguing a direct design copy. The game itself is a Minecraft, Zelda, Monster Hunter mashup unlike anything Pokemon has put forth. So there's no winning here. Here's the funny sentence. The PAL designs have elements that are similar to Pokemon, but even though they fly a bit close to the sun for my taste, it's really a hard case to win. Nintendo would better serve seeing what elements of the game might fit under its own brand, as if Nintendo needs to look at why people are, and I'm gonna tell you when it's my turn, when I tell you when I played this game, what I felt. And I'm gonna tell you what's going on, but that's what Lord Hoag is saying. So I'm kind of leaning towards that.
We'll talk about Palworld a lot more, mechanically
later.
Speaking, in the Game Pass pick of the week. Naturally, if anyone couldn't tell,
if anyone can tell what it was.
Mm-hmm. So with that, Cog, we move on to our last news story here. Walmart. There was a rumor that's been going around here that Walmart will be taking all physical copies of Starfield from their stores. And the memo says that the system will block the purchase if anyone tries to get a physical copy of Starfield. So I think the memo says that the system will block it if someone tries to get it for the price tag they're dropping it to, because it says it could go for 3 cents. Xbox has yet to refute this. And it's another kind of step in the direction of digital only for them. And I was thinking about it a little bit. Sometimes I just randomly write notes on I've realized if I don't put my thoughts on paper or digitally or physically and start creating a hierarchy of my thoughts, they just get really messy and disorganized. And I forget where I was originally going with it. And I was thinking a bit about Xbox's ecosystem and what they've built over the years. And I was thinking about it versus what PlayStation had built and what Nintendo had built. And one thing I really came down to was when you look at what PlayStation has built, right? Highly curated, classic, premium single player experiences. And it's kind of like their business model, right? Nintendo, I've said this term a lot lately, so I apologize, but I call it the Disney-fied nostalgic adoration for their IP, where I think no better example than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Broken game at launch, barely functional, and it sold gangbusters, like insane numbers, just by name alone. Like, oh, it's the next Pokemon. Like, of course I'm going to pick it up. And there are tens of millions of people who are like that. I was thinking to myself, like, what is Xbox's kind of generational thing? It's had an identity, but it's like, it's defined by the generations rather than like consistency, right? And I was thinking more about it. Xbox's biggest thing has always been multiplayer and reinvestment in the thing you already have. So Xbox Live in the original Xbox era, right? The beginning of online gaming, the built-in Ethernet port, like that was huge. 360 was like their era, right? Like they ushered in Xbox Live party chat, MW2 lobbies, Halo 3 multiplayer, and map packs, right? Not that they were the creators of the map pack, but like their generation there was defined by online content and having the premium multiplayer offering exclusives like Halo, like Gears, and having people spend more money on like the legendary map pack for Halo 3. And so that was the start of creating some sort of culture. And Xbox One was going to lean into that more, right? Like always online, you know, the DRM shit, all that stuff. Like, and they were ahead of that by a lot. And that's what hurt them. So then they had to retool to create their identity again. And that's where Game Pass really defined the Xbox One, but more the series console generation. But that was like their biggest move during that generation. And so I look at them consistently and I'm like, really? They've been heading this way since the start. And I'm not advocating for it. But when you really look at it generation to generation, as I was breaking it down in my notes, I'm like, they started focusing on online at the very beginning of the console brand's life. And they evolved it in the proper ways with the Xbox 360 and became the online platform and started to build a loyal base that would reinvest in their games. And as live service became a thing, and I mean, think of what they invested in primarily during Xbox One's generation. Like the main things like Forza Horizon was a big thing during Xbox One. Gears was big. Master Chief Collection, big. So these kind of platform-based games, right? Like it's always been their thing. And so while PlayStation is cool, like remember Colin has said, to give an example the audience is familiar with, I don't mean to pick on Colin. He's like, for example, like it, like he said, like Xbox trains their customers to not purchase their games, but Xbox has trained their customers to, when they play their games or purchase their games, to spend on them more often than probably other platforms would. And I think that's why not only do you cut out the retail middleman, right? So you're making the maximum dollar, but if you go digital only, you have the base more than anyone else who is trained, if you will.
That's a good point.
To be buying digitally.
Right.
At least that's the conclusion I kind of came to. I was like, this has kind of been like, why do we have identities for ecosystems for these other two platforms? But the second it comes to Xbox, it's like, fuck it, we don't know. I'm not talking about Colin when I say that. Fuck it, we don't know.
Right.
Like their customers have no identity. It's like, no, like they've been online gaming for generations. This has been their thing. So that's kind of what I came down to with it. Like it's one of those things where like if they're removing Starfield from store shelves, it wouldn't surprise me anymore. Cause I'm like, then you look at the Hellblade news and you look at where Game Pass is going. And analysts recently predicted like 33 million subscribers in the service. And with Call of Duty, like that's only going to surge. Like think about the other games they're selling. It's like, wouldn't you, if you're them, I'm not talking about myself. I'm trying to go business Matty here.
Yeah, let's go.
If you're them and you have the biggest gaming IP on the planet in Call of Duty, don't you want to eventually cut out that middleman and collect the maximum dollar on it over time? Maybe not immediately. It's probably one of the last ones you take off of store shelves. But like, don't you want to take all that you can home with it? Same with Starfield, which was a top 10 selling game last year. Don't you want to take all of that money home? And their customers are most trained for it. And their platform is probably most suited for it with cloud gaming, with their download speeds. So I'm pretty much starting to sound like COG here. But That's how I looked at it, man. I was like,
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, Maddie, what are your thoughts? Like, this is a bummer. And I'm like, it is a bummer. It fucking sucks. I've been saying for a while that Xbox isn't leading the charge in killing physical games, and I hate it. But I also have to, as a pundit, an analyst, someone working in the industry, I have to recognize like the business trend. And it's like, this is why they're doing it. It doesn't mean I like it. I can know why and not like it, but I think that's why. I think they have the most trained audience for online gaming and live service gaming and spending money on games that they already own again and again and again, maybe ending up having a customer technically buying the game twice. That's how I look at it. I'm curious as to your thoughts.
No, I feel you, man. I mean, look, I get it. I'm always empathetic to the other side, regardless of how things are trending or, what Xbox's, mantra is. I think you said it best. If you look at the ecosystem as a whole, whether it be Game Pass Cloud, it's been digital. It's been that they've been early there, kind of thing. And again, what I think what you said resonates the most is if you look at them historically, they have always trended in the direction the games industry is going from a technical and services and online perspective ahead of everyone. People have copied them. They were the ones who really introduced, party chat, multi-platform, multi-application party chat where you go across the board, and Xbox Live, I was there. I was an alpha tester. I was there. I remember. People thought it was crazy. What are you doing? Why do I need Ethernet? I'm fine with my dial-up. So, these things continue. The hard drive stuff you said, even TV. People were like, yo, what are you doing? What do we have now? Last I checked, Neil Druckmann had a, what I'm saying? Like, bro, what? So again, we could sit here and we can poo-poo it and we can say, I don't think it's the right, but it ends up being right. The question was, are they too early? Are they too aggressive in the current generation they are now? That's the part I can't answer. You know what I'm saying? We got to see how that pans out.
Especially, we were talking about, printing physical copies and the cost for them. It makes it easier to bring your games to other platforms when you're not printing physical copies for them. Exactly.
So it's just like, again, it is part of their vision. That's just the hardcore reality of it. So, I get it. And if someone says, yo, bro, that's not the platform for me, I can't be a part. Totally understand. If you're a physical, but maybe it's not. What I'm saying? It's not for you. You know what I'm saying? But again, from a data analytics, I'm a techie, that's what they do. And they always they've always shown a propensity to be cutting edge in wherever the industry go. And that's the last point I said. People better get ready. And this includes PlayStation as well. There could be a day where we have a ubiquitous future. So I know the third party talk annoys people, and trust me, I don't want them necessarily to do. I feel they're right on the cusp of the mountain time. I've been on the record for saying,
what we talk about with the Xbox One gen, right? Like, just are they striking too soon if they do this?
Right. I've been like, yo, I worry about the brand and that your brand is not there yet. But let's just say, I'm just theorizing. Let's just say a couple years down the road, Apple loses the court case and everybody's store is everybody's store. And you can live anywhere. Guess who's ready before everybody else?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Guess who? And we've already seen on record with the Insomniac leaks, PlayStation said our pillars are outdated. We cannot compete with them in that particular space. We better adapt. They are admitting it. The kings of the physical and the high quality. You know what I'm saying? Like the console sales, they are the epitome. They are the poster child of success. If the poster child of success is following the third place entity in a space that is not determined, or thinking about in a space that's not determined yet, maybe they are onto something. It's just a matter of if they're too early or not. And I get that. I totally understand if people say, bro, I'm not ready for that. I'm going to be over here and I'm going to hold on over here, with people that are doing what I want them to do. So, I get it. It's a great discussion point either way.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll see what Xbox does with physical copies moving forward, but nonetheless, I think the last thing I'll say is the most troubling thing is there's been a lot of really damning, daunting rumors surrounding the platform, and Xbox has yet to announce really any of them. Yeah, and I really like from third-party releases of like Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves, just stuff like this. It's like just nothing.
Yeah, sometimes you get that press conference or that podcast or maybe a marketing tweet to kind of subliminally, silence that. Yeah, we have it. And again, all we said, and we've talked about it in the crossover, is that no one's fear-mongering because nothing's official yet, but we do know the sources that are saying this have very good track records. So at the very minimum, it's being discussed internally.
Yeah.
We could say that.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Cog, that's the news for the week. Let's talk about Game Pass. Pick of the week. I had the pick, but it was one that I think we could all make in unison.
Yeah.
And that is Palworld. But what I wanted to do was just have a couple of other audience write-ins.
Yeah, let's go.
Do some Game Pass picks of the week just to balance it out because everyone's kind of checking out, playing, interested in Palworld. So we got two here. Papa Smurf 531 writes, howdy Dukes. Just wanted to add on to Maddie's Game Pass pick of the week last week with Resident Evil 2 Remake. The Japanese version of the game is on Game Pass now as well, which features an additional achievement list. So if you're an achievement whore like myself and want an excuse to dive back into RE2, switching your console location to Japan and playing the remake is super simple. Have an X gonna give it to you kind of day. So that's actually some next level sweat stuff, but I love it. Shout out to Papa Smurf for that one. Meanwhile, James N writes, and it wasn't necessarily listed as a Game Pass pick of the week, but I wanted to throw it out there anyway for people who were excited for Aura. Refined Dukes, like yourself, I am very interested in this Aura game. I was giggling to myself listening to Maddie's frustration regarding the timing of the game's release. Have either of you played Crusader Kings 3? You basically play as the lineage of a house. You play as one ruler, and when he dies, you play as their heir, and so on. Grow the kingdom from a duchy to an empire, and let the whole world know you're renowned through the decisions you make. Maddie, this game may be able to fill that 4X/grand strategy void you were talking about for the spring. And Cog, the Iron Lord, I can imagine this would be right up your alley. Just be careful. This game is a time machine. The hours will slip. Just have a regular day, my dudes. James. Thank you, James, for writing in. Cog, I thought of you right away because you could at least attest to this more because you've played it.
Yeah, that's literally what happened. I'm like, all right, this is addicting. This is too much. Now I can do my heirs, my children, who they marry, the benefit of this. It gets so deep. It is really done well. And I'm like, I cannot go down this rabbit. I have way too many addictive games and live service games. It's too much. Trust me. But no, it's good. It's good. Crusader Kings 3 is good if you're in that space.
Yeah, I think I've decided, James, that I don't know if this would qualify as either 4X or grand strategy, but the main PC style game that I'm going to throw myself at in the first half of the year is going to be Frostpunk 2. And you have to realize, James, while this is a phenomenal suggestion for me and people who are interested in Aura, I can't take on too many of these because they will ruin my life. And I've got to be careful, as I'm sure you understand. So one in the first half and one in the second half sounds healthy to me because I know Aura will dominate me. So shout out to you for the Game Pass pick of the week alongside Papa Smurf. But the real one for us, at least, is Palworld. And so now that we've got all the allegations and the creature copying and all that dirty stuff out of the way, we can talk about the game itself. So Cog, I got to say, I picked this one because I do think I enjoyed it, but I do think this is a great Game Pass game because it is early access. It's not all the way there. It's impressive for where it's at, but it's not all the way there. It's very janky. It's very feature lacking in the terms of like, I can only bring 4 people into a lobby. It's a pretty big deal, in my opinion. We had 5 ready to go, and we couldn't all play. So that wasn't fun. There's a lot of things that I think the game could do better. Combat feels particularly awful, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it fits really well for the try before you buy mantra of Game Pass. Just feeling it out. What I will say is the base building loop is addictive. It is when you start to see like some dudes can mine, some dudes can cut trees, some dudes can lay eggs. Like everyone has a plethora of abilities, and what they can do in your camp is awesome. Like the amount of technologies that they have, you collect XP by catching, mining resources. Everything you do gives you XP. You level up, you get technology points. You spend those technology points on all sorts of inventions, from egg incubators to crushers that pretty much recycle your materials to mining centers where like a bunch of pals will go in and start mining with a pickaxe. To things that like I built a hot spring recently because I had to take care of my pals because I started to get these updates. Like there's this one, his name's like Pansy or something like that. He's like a green grass type monkey sort of pal. Mm-hmm. And this dude's such a bitch, man. Like he's always like, he's depressed. He's feeling overworked. I built the whole ass of the hot spring right next to him. And he's still bitching up a storm about the working conditions. There are just some men that are built different that I have just, I take out my cog, I take out my combat spear. I'm like, 1, 2, because I can do it now. Because this is not something that Pokemon lets you do. I'm like, you're pissing me off. Like, get back to it.
Get back to work.
Or I fed him like I've hand fed him. Like I took a fried egg on the campfire. I'm like, all right, here you go. I'm cooking for you here. I walk over, I feed him, and he's like, I see the mood going up, and it says, I forgot what his name is again. I should get this pal's name because he's really bothered me. But it's like so and so is really frustrated with their work and is taking a nap. They're slacking off now. I come back, this dude's sleeping on the job. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Get back to work, man. What is this?
Pal sleeping on the job.
Some of these pals got attitude, and that's the most captivating part about the game. It's like you come back, you're like, bro, I needed you on that log tree over. I needed you to start mining. Now we're behind. Now I can't. You know what? We're replacing you. We're going to the pal management menu. We're putting you back in your ball. We're putting your friend out to work.
You put him in a box.
Yeah.
You put him in a hole. You put him in solitary.
Yeah. Don't think about your actions. So yeah, this game is addicting in that way, man. It's like it's so fun to make that. That's my headcanon, right? Like this is just AI or whatever is walking around like, oh man, it's not working. Whatever. For me, I take it personally. I'm like, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. You're letting down the whole fucking base right now. You just don't seem to get that. So yeah,
takes a village.
Yeah, it really does though. Like if one person's slacking, I come back. I'm like, no man, I need 100 wood, and like you stopped, and now the deer's handling it all. Now the deer, because he's handling it all. This deer is overworked now.
I gotta interrupt you. This is why this game is the greatest.
I know. That's what I'm trying to say.
Can I just jump in for a second?
Yeah,
my experience is way short because I've been, bro. You literally could beat the cutest things over the head and make them work for you. This game is wild. Like, bro, you could catch humans.
I did do that. I put a villager to work. I was like, all right, when I swapped out the monkey, I was like, all right, we're throwing out a human now. Bro, this guy will do work.
It is the funniest game going, and it's super addicting. Then you've got the grounded mentality when it's the 4. Now, granted, to your point, let's get the bat out. Frame rate, oh boy, please get the frame rate smoother. Get the head count for that. We know you're working on the compatibility with Xbox and the crossplay, and you're going to improve the version. So you said you're going to do it, you recognize it, and I like that. Just get the Xbox version up to snuff, please. But I'm with you, man. And what I like for a guy like me, this is where they won me over. And you know, COG do not like to be at the playground playing, even looking at these type of games. But you add violence and you add funny innuendos in it. God's interested now. So where they won for me,
I saw one that was named Cognito.
Bro, they got me in the game. They got a Cognito pal.
Yeah,
and he got the black on. He like a little shady penguin or something, like a ninja penguin or something.
The penguins in this game are awesome. I gotta say, I got one called Pen King. I hatched him from an egg. I was like, this dude's fucking awesome. Like he when they got the unique looking creatures, oh man, they're awesome.
They're awesome. And then I like that they fight for you and they get it. I'm like, this game is and mind you, I've never played a Pokemon game in my life.
In your life?
In my life. This is my first experience with throwing something and capturing something. I've never played ever. So, because here's the thing. So, because they were like, I was like, it's Pokemon. I'm like, I'm not probably not gonna like it. But they were like, no, Kyle, you can enslave them and you can make them in working conditions. And I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. Let me see what this is. And then you got the people who want to base build and do all this other stuff. And I'm like, all right, cool. But the thing for me, this is where they win. COG really don't like survival games like that, the hardcore ones, the Conans and the Arcs, and it's just too much. Where they are the best is they are the ultimate handholders. Hey, build this far, well, fine.
Yeah, tutorial's great.
Bro, about things you should do. You got a whole glossary? You got a whole, codex on how to play. I'm like, there we go. Then you get the technology points. And then I got Addict, the ultimate Pokemon man that's like, yo, do this, do that. All right, cool. So I ain't going front. My experience is I like the control. I like pressing Y, going through all my things. Mm-hmm. I had to learn to get a damn torch. And at night is rough. You better have a bed. You better sleep. You better do something because they get cold. He get hungry. He do all this stuff. Then I'm learning the materials. And the fact that all of the enemies, Maddie, have different working traits and different things that they can. This one is good at culturing this, and that one's good at mining it. It's hilarious. And then I've seen people taking pictures of they pals with the mad face. Like, it is you have to admit, it is the funniest thing going.
Oh, 100%. And that's the thing that I excuse Pocket Pair for is I don't know if it was communicated well here, but you look at a game like their AI art game, it's clear this studio's humor is parody.
Yes.
It's clear it's parody. And
that's how
it's where it's like sometimes I wonder if I wish I said this earlier because I'm sure people have already heard our Palworld segment. They've made up their minds, but whatever. I wonder if sometimes, like, am I the problem? Like, am I not seeing the game for what it is, which is clearly like trying to make a parody on these things and make fun of it and have fun with the idea of like doing the thing that these Pokemon creatures would never be doing, which is hard work and shooting each other. Like, it's crazy. What I love is they marketed so much about the guns and you don't get the guns for a while.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, like you have to build up to that.
Yeah, Attic was showing me his tree, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I got the least hours. Obviously, got way more hours. I am going back to it. I ain't gonna lie. I am going back. I like it, and I want to play it with the homies some more and see what's going on. But yeah, that's they got something. They do. They do. I have to admit.
And to the Xbox fans like Papa Smurf who like a good achievement, I've got a handful of achievements in the game. They've all been 100 gamer score. So, good gamer score.
Hey, now we like those big chunky achievements from back in the day.
Mm-hmm. So check that out, ladies and gentlemen. Palworld is legitimately a good time and worth a look, at least on Game Pass. All right, Cog, we have one more question, and then we're out of here.
Yeah, final one.
So this next one goes to Grant. I found this to be an interesting write-in, actually, so I wanted to tackle it because it was about Bethesda and a topic that I've had in my head for a while, but I didn't know someone actually talked about already. So Grant writes, "Hey Dukes, just curious if you guys saw the video by Never Knows Best about the internet's treatment of Emil Pagliarulo, a writer/designer at Bethesda. The video explores how a Reddit post critiquing Emil's presentation at a game conference snowballed into what amounts to a lot of slander and misinformation about Emil and his work on games like Fallout 4 and Starfield. It's a great example of how certain content creators can more or less lie or mislead people with misinformation and even profit off the attention their videos receive. I have not enjoyed Starfield myself, but this video really points out the bogus and toxic stuff that can circulate around Bethesda and other developers for lots of clicks or views. It's also a good example of how misinformation is so easy to spread on the internet in general. Keep up the great work." What's interesting is I went and checked this video out afterward. It is a 2-hour video, so I have to say, first and foremost, Grant, I did not watch the full thing. I did not have the time to, but I have seen the complaints about Emil for a while. Someone who's been in like the Bethesda Game Studios community since Fallout 4. It was actually, that was around, to my knowledge, that was around the time the Reddit post went live. Because for those who don't have context, he had a presentation it was called "Keep It Simple, Stupid." It was like his big talking point there, of like, simpler the better, like simplify your writing and pretty much like breaking down the process in a way a lot of people didn't like. And so a lot of folks attribute the failures of any BGS sort of story to Emil and his style, which has been interesting to see because I really feel like it in a studio as in Bethesda Game Studios isn't massive, like they're 400 plus people now, but they're big enough where the writing never comes down to just one person ever. But I get why people would want a target to go at. The thing that I found interesting though, is I was going through this gentleman's channel, Never Knows Best. Yeah. A lot of like critique videos, a lot of like long-winded conversations and that stuff, generally well received. This was the one that wasn't like to dislike ratio wise, seemingly well received. Okay. And it speaks to one thing, which is this. Misinformation or not, a lot of people didn't like Starfield. And when people are mad, they need a target. And I think that even though what Never Knows Best said is accurate and fair from what I heard, when people are mad, they don't want to be told, like, well, actually, you're like, look at this, you're wrong. And there was so much stuff in that video that I already saw that was like, wow. That was completely mischaracterized or misunderstood. But that when the narrative is established, it's really difficult nowadays to battle back against it. where like even for me, again, I think I talked about it last week. I said how I labeled the video like Starfield's biggest, and I put it in quotes, update is here, because that's Bethesda's words, and people are still mad at Starfield, and they're like, oh man, like, you know, here we go, like these YouTubers, these content creators are going to call everything like big updates, and I'm like, it's their words, man. Like we're just forwarding that's like mostly what we do here. We forward information and deliver our interpretation on it. So I say that in a long-winded way to explain that I think when people are just pissed off at something and feel wronged by a product, no amount of correction does anything nowadays. I think people should still do what Never Knows Best does, and what I try to do, which is like, hey, you know, like again with Palworld, like my video generally was like not positively received as most are, because people were like, who gives a fuck? It's fucking Nintendo. Like, fuck them. But it's like, well, no, they still stole creature designs. I'm not going to sit here and just because Palworld's fun, I'm not going to pretend that that's not a thing. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a lot of brushing under the rug that maybe happens.
No, I get it.
So I'm going on, but I want to talk about it a little bit more. But Cog, what are your thoughts? Have you had a chance to ever check out this video? I imagine not in full, but you know, have you had a chance to check it out? If not, like, what are your thoughts on what Grant wrote in here about how misinformation can spread so easily, and how it can affect people even?
No, I agree. I think that to me is the greater thing as far as misinformation, and you know, it's tough because I know content creators, it's a passionate bunch, and we all feel strongly, even though we sometimes disagree. And you know, I always try to be open-minded to people who do not share the same mindset as me. You know, y'all know how much I love stuff, and we don't gotta get into that, right? But at the same time, I'm empathetic to people who say, yo, it didn't hit like that for me, Cog. And that's cool. Like, it's all good. Yeah. You know, for me, I struggle with the misinformation to the disingenuous takes to suit an agenda. And those ones I feel I could sniff out quick. You know what I mean? Because I could tell it's a targeted, consistent targeted attack at something. But in this case, you know, look, I don't know, you know, Emerald's, you know, situation. I don't know, you know, I have to do a little bit more research on that. So full disclosure there, I did not listen to this video. I have to know what's going on. But I do understand Grant's overall point about, he's saying the video really points out bogus and toxic stuff that can circle around and for other developers for lots of clicks and views. And sometimes what I consider like a pile-on effect, you know, and
100%, bro.
We got to be real, you know, there's algorithms here, there's SEO here, and people act like that's not a thing. Oh, no, just everyone hates it. That's it. No, you can also benefit by doing certain things, right? And that's just an honest thing. I'm not making excuses for people who don't like it. We cannot ignore the business aspect of negative pile-on content. I could sit there and say, yo, I saved 2 kids from a burning building, and watch the views versus, yo, this game suck, or I'm gonna go threaten somebody. It's a difference. Like, negativity has always sold historically. That's just what it is. I mean, that's just life. It's sad that life is that way. That's just how it is. But, you know, it is what it is. The only misinformation that I think that it hasn't been, you're going to laugh at this. The only one that I think hasn't been out there, you know, information that hasn't been out there that I'd like to address, which I forgot to address in my Palworld section. You're going to like this one. So obviously I make my character in Palworld. A light-skinned brother, look good, got the, you know, I'm like, okay, I done made my Cog, all right, you know, I'm not that bad. I got my little, you know, tunic thing in the beginning. Bro, why this game, when I jump in water, why do black people, when they jump in water in this game, come out looking like the Silver Surfer? Oh, no. Misinformation. No one told me this. Palworld, what's going on, man? I'm about to make a video. I'm about to go in on y'all. You know, I'm about to start my negative hate train. Oh, what's up with black folk jumping in Palworld water, looking like Silver Surfer, dipped in, like I was dipped in. Yo, Attic looked at me. He was dying. He was like, yo, what's up with your kid? I said, I don't know. I just made him look like me. I said, your character don't look like that when he jumps in water. You got to say, I'm going to take a screenshot. Put it
you guys said that to me. I've not seen that. To you.
Bro, it is hilarious. So Palworld, y'all got to get on. Otherwise, I'm making 5 diss tracks. I'm making 6 videos. And then we're going to go in on y'all hate
like that ad. Hell yeah.
Man.
I don't know if I have anything more to say on this subject. Yeah, it's just it's a shame to see how it goes. Especially because I experienced it for the first time with Cyberpunk, where like, not me personally, but like that moment of realizing when people are mad, they don't care who's talking, they're just gonna sound off and verbally assault you regardless. And so like, even though I was like fair and objective with Cyberpunk throughout the whole thing, if I wasn't shitting on that fucking game, oh my God. And I'm not exaggerating, because it's been the same fucking thing with Starfield. Like, if I am not dropping my pants and taking the biggest shit on Starfield, I am simping for it. I'm going down with the ship for it. I'm loving this game too much. I've lacked objectivity. Any sort of optimism surrounding that game, just like fucking stomped out completely. Like, you cannot have an ounce of faith in this place.
Ain't no way they love it like that. Ain't no way.
It started with Cyberpunk, and it's been that way since for me. It's like, this game sucks, and you're still gonna cover. Oh, you're gonna learn if you're really gonna be happy around these parts. Good vibes are not allowed. So yeah, I don't think Emil did himself any favors by his big Twitter thread, because people were really gradually coming for him, and like everyone's got a threshold. So like, I knew my man. He was way too active on Twitter to not eventually pop off.
Yeah, it's the human element, though. I mean, look, we human, man. At the end of the day, like, there's always that faction that just come at you every day for no reason and try to tag you every day. And every once in a while, you take the bait. Sometimes we probably shouldn't have. And look, I'm nowhere near the level of these guys as far as, visibility and stuff like that. And bro, let me just say this last thing. Had a fantastic conversation with Neil Druckmann. And one of the things is just like, bro, he tells his developers, like, if you can, stay off social media, bro, because he's like, it is insane. And you could tell it had effect. And this is a quiet guy, very shy guy, but very down to earth, very cool. Oh, whoa. What you laughing at?
This is off topic.
Yes, Maddie's making a face, so we got to switch gears for a second.
No, I mean, are you done?
I'm pretty much just the social medias and how awful people could be. But let's get to what you laughing at now.
You know what I'm going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I can't read this. I'm fucking sick.
Let's see. What we doing?
This is news late in the show.
Late in the show breaking? What we do? Breaking hot off the press?
Please read it for me, man.
All right, let's see. Let's go. We're going to pull this up. Someone hit you with the big oof. Oh, no. Black Forest Games, the folks behind TMNT, The Last Ronin, our beloved Last Ronin announcement, have laid off around 50% of its workforce. Embrace It Group. Looks like Kotaku has a story. Oh, man. Poor Maddie. Damn. Why always your joint? That's what's so frustrating about this, so sad about. Like, why my man's heart always got to be broken with this horrible type news? Jesus.
I feel like someone wrote in as a joke, like, Maddie, I am very upset that you like this as much as I do, because it means something is going to happen to it.
So many people tagging you too. That's it.
How much longer do I have to suffer?
I know, bro.
Why?
You put me on to this series, bro.
Nickelodeon, man. This is what I said from the fucking start.
I did say it too.
Why did you give it to this team?
Black Forest.
Why did you give it to the fucking remake team?
You did say this.
I gotta process. I'm not gonna give any sort of fair criticism on this.
Let's compartmentalize. Let's give it time.
Yeah.
Let's give it a little time. News is fresh. The wound is raw. But
how long do I have to suffer, man?
I feel you, brother. I feel your pain on this one.
Give me a Fallout 3 remaster now.
Yeah, we need that. We need a Fallout 3 remaster. We got to hook this boy up with something. The Fallout 5 announcement.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this nugget at the end of our show.
Jesus.
Oh, man. I'll add that to. I'm going to put in our list for next week's news. We'll talk about it more then.
We'll talk about it more next week, for sure.
Cog, as always, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer at the end of the show here, but as always, it is time to pick the hashtag.
Yes.
What are you feeling? Talked about Palworld, like DD Pals, or you thinking like
I like DD Pals.
I like that. Yeah.
I do like DD Pals. Okay. That fits, man.
Perfect. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can find us over on Twitter. I am at G27status. Cog is at Lord Cognito. You can tag us there with the hashtag DDPals. Otherwise, use the comment section on YouTube. Let us know your thoughts. And with that, Cog, it's time for us to bid the audience adieu. Any final words before we go?
Fantastic show. Love the topics. And we're in the heart of it, man. 2024. And we definitely going to break more of this news down. But next week, obviously, we got more breaking news and stuff like that just happened at the end. But yeah, man, good show, man. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a better evening than I'm about to have because I'm going to go cry. And of course, for the rest of your week, we hope it's at least decent. Peace out.
Peace.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Maddie's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.